Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry to be slow getting started, but we welcome you to our city council meeting today. Let's see. We will begin. First of all, I want to excuse Councilwoman Michelle Randall. She's ill today, so we will miss her, but hope she gets feeling better soon. We will begin with an invocation from, I believe it's going to be Richard Whitehead. Is that right? Looks right, yeah. So Richard Whitehead will offer an invocation. And after that, I've asked Trevor Croft, and there he is right there. We'll have him bring up his scouts. What troop are you guys from? 578? Yep. Okay. From Troop 578. They'll come up and lead us in the pledge. So, Mr. Whitehead.
Our Father in heaven, we bow our heads before Thee and give Thee thanks for this day and for the wonderful 4th of July celebration that represents the founding of this great country where we live. We're thankful for the members of the City Council and our mayor and the leaders of this community, and seek Thy guidance for them and for our understanding, and as we join together in this great city to make it even better. We thank Thee for all of these wonderful things and these people who are public servants for us and who give of their time to be helpful to us in making our city better and bringing us into a more wonderful circumstances where we can be good neighbors and friends and share the bounties of this fine community. And we do this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Richard, while you're there, would you like to say anything about an event coming up here shortly before we do the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure. Might just say, Mayor, that Mr. Whitehead was on the City Council way back when they hired the current city manager. They're pretty close.
So what was that, about 5 or 6 years ago?
Yeah.
We can't take all of that responsibility, but I would just like to say I did serve on the City Council years ago. I think it was in the late 70s, something like that. And I'd like to thank all of you, and Gary in particular. We've been away for 16 years, my wife and I, on other assignments, and we love the community. We just were starting back at that time to get some trails and stuff, and now I'm the time I like to ride bikes and stuff, and the trails are all here, and congratulations to you and all who have served before. It's incredible.
Next time you go, take Joe with you, okay?
Well, I tried to raise him in our neighborhood there for a few years back, but he's come a long ways. Anyway, I'm here today to talk to you about Rocky Vista University, the new medical school. It's called Vern Ivans, but it's going to have a great impact on our area, our county, our state, and our nation, really. And all of you in the City Council and Mayor and City Manager would have been invited to a special ribbon cutting that's on the 14th of this month. You need to be in your seats at 11 a.m. over there. And I wanted to, if you haven't RSVP'd, please let me know on the next day, and we'll see. We want to recognize leaders from up and down the state and from across the nation. This is a campus that's affiliated with a major Rocky Vista University that's in Parker, Colorado, that's been there for 10 years. So we'll have a great impact on this area. We have 135 seats for the new freshman class, and there were over 2,000 applications, just to give you an idea of what impact this will have. So you probably all know a lot of doctors who are doctors of osteopathic medicine. That's what this is all about. It will increase our medical ranks significantly, especially in rural areas around the area. So I've got a copy here of the little ribbon cutting. That's just for special invites. And then on the 19th of August, there is a open house for everyone to come and see the beautiful thing. So if you're driving through Ivans or over towards Tuacahn, you'll see this wonderful building, and I think that it's going to be a real treasure for the area, for Washington County and the state of Utah. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Richard.
I'll hand these to Ed, and he can.
That'd be great. I think I've already RSVP'd, but I will be there, Richard. And we still wish it was in St. George, but hey, it looks great, and we're glad it's in Washington County.
I was going to say, you can't have your cake and eat it too, but at least you can have your cake.
That's right. Exactly. Okay, Scouts, and I know we have some Cub Scouts that came in somewhere too. Yeah, why don't you come up too? Just join your fellow Scouts and come up to the podium, face us, and then Trevor Croft will lead us. Tell us what to do, Trevor. Just come up by the microphone, Trevor. Come on up, Cub Scouts. Just come stand up here and look handsome. He's going, can I do that? Can I do that? They do, don't they? Perfect. Just stand right there. Okay, Trevor, tell us what we need to do.
Okay. Will the audience please rise? Salute. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. 2. The audience may be seated.
Thank you. So, Cub Scouts, you can sit down. Thank you for being here. Boy Scouts, you need to stand there for just a minute. So, Trevor, will you tell us what else you're doing here today? Tell us why you're here and what you've been up to recently over at Bloomington Hills Park.
So about a year ago, I think that's when this started. The entire scout group decided that it would be a good idea to get all of our Eagle Scouts done because we were all at that point. And I think that we thought the best way to do that would to be build a disc golf course. So it was really nice that we all did it at the same time because we could all kind of advance at the same general rate. So we all started getting our early paperwork done, and we started having these board reviews, and there would be 5 or 6 boys at the board review, and we would go up there and get that approved. And maybe like early this year, January and late 2016 is when we started actually building the courses. So what we would do is we would go up there and we would dig about a 5-inch deep hole. It was maybe 10 to 12 feet by like 4 feet or 3 feet. And then we would build that hole, we would dig that hole, and we would also have somebody go out and dig deeper holes that were about a foot in diameter, have 2 of those, and we would fill all those with some road base, we would fill up the main tee pad with concrete, and then you would construct your basket and put it in the hole and concrete it in there. And that was about it. So we did that 9 times. There were 2 holes for this. There were 2 sockets. So it's an 18-hole course, and it was a great experience for all of us. I think it taught us a bit because we were going out there and we were working not for money, just to better the community. And I think that taught all of us a really good lesson, and it's a really good thing that we all got to do that.
That's awesome, Trevor. Thank you very much. And we have with us our parks manager, Shane Moore. Shane, do you want to come up? And I don't know, McShane, do you want to come too? Okay. Anyone that's, in our parks department, come on up and let's have them. Shane and your team, anything you'd like to say about this project? You guys stay here for a minute, okay?
This has turned out to be just a great project, Mayor. We actually have a 9-hole disc golf course now at Bloomington Hills North Park. And Cody Schmidt, our assistant manager over the Parks Department, he actually worked with Logan Sandberg, who's our full-timer, to kind of lay out the course. And so I'll just let Cody say a few things about it. And then I think the Scoutmaster is here too. Yeah.
Very good, yes.
TJ's the one that contacted me, and who was the gentleman that was with you that was really into disc golf? Parker. Yeah, Parker and Logan, they have a little background in throwing some discs, not at each other, but at baskets. and so we walked the course. All these boys, TJ, Parker, and Logan, we walked the whole park, and we laid out the course individually, hole by hole, and assigned each scout which hole they would want to construct. And in the end, I was a little hesitant. I'm like, there's no way these guys are going to do this. And man, they showed their true colors. They through and through, and they worked hard. TJ was very well organized for these scouts, and they did an excellent job and provided the community a wonderful resource for wholesome activities for families to go have fun. So we appreciate it. Thanks, you guys.
Cody, thank you very much. Well, I had a chance to come over as you guys kind of inaugurated the course. When was that? A week or so ago, and had a tournament, and didn't even have time to cut a ribbon. You're in a hurry. You had to get moving. You had a good turnout, and I heard a few stories from some of your leaders, and they talked about what a good team this is. Is that right? Cody and Shane and Scoutmasters back there. And I heard some really neat stories about how you help each other and you look out for each other. So, and you've learned more about service and what I think it really means to be a scout. You know, Boy Scout, Cub Scout, Girl Scout, these are all things we talk about a lot at our meetings. If everybody could learn those lessons, we'd be a better St. George and a better Utah and a better United States and a better world. So will you try to remember these lessons you've learned and how to work together and be good to each other? Because I know you are now. I know some of your leaders and really proud of you, what you've accomplished. And it's a beautiful park. A lot of people don't know it's there, and I'm afraid now it's going to be discovered, right? But it's your park, right? This is a neighborhood park, and I hope you use it. And now more people will know it's there, and that's good. Good use for it, I think, in terms of disc golf. So anyway, I prepared for you a certificate that I'd like to come and hand to each one of you. And I know there's a couple missing, so maybe one of you can hang on to the extras for us. Will you do that? Okay, I'll come right down. So let's see. Easton here. Okay, Maverick is here. Congratulations. Thank you. Dylan? Not here. Trevor's here. He's got a good dad and a good uncle. I happen to know. Thank you, Trevor. Drake? Thank you, Drake. Adam? Okay. Thank you. Ethan? Here. Awesome. You live right now? You must be, right? Ezra? Let's see. You have a brother, PJ? That's your dad. PJ doesn't have a certificate, but he should, because I heard he's incredible. Nick? Okay, so we just missed Easton and Dylan and anything on those, PJ? Thank you very much. So, council, this is what Eagle Scouts look like. I don't know if they've had their boards of review yet. Some of you have. How many of you have had your board of review and technically your Eagle Scout? All of you? Just Trevor. Okay, well, thank you very much for your service. Let's give you all another round of applause. You got that. Thanks, John. Yeah. None of those scouts looked like they were 17 and a half, did they? So you guys are moving it along, and that's good. Okay. Am I missing anything else pre-agenda? I don't think so. Gary? Okay. Then I think we will go ahead. Gary, have there been any changes to the agenda?
No.
Then let's go ahead and we'll start with public comments. I believe I only had one turned in for this, and it was from Alan Christensen out in the Bloomington area, I believe. So thank you, Scouts. Appreciate you. So, Mr. Christensen, if you want to come forward. We limit these just a reminder of the rules. You must be a resident of the city of St. George. Each speaker's given approximately 3 minutes, and we just we'll show you courtesy and respect, and we hope you'll do the same. And then, just so you know, it can't be related to pending issues on the agenda or likely to be on a future agenda, but yours, I believe, qualifies, so you should be fine. Please proceed.
Well, I just moved on Sugar Leo, and we used the horse arena over there. And as we watched the lights on the baseball field be turned on till 10 o'clock at night for 2 kids, and we can't ride our horses in the evening when it's hot like this, we'd like to see what we could do to help have the city help us get some lights. We'll do fundraisers as the horse community or whatever we need to do. I just wanted to come before the committee and see what we need to do to achieve that for us.
And Gary can respond to this too, but I would think this could be a good thing to, and you may have already done this, to coordinate with the Bloomington Community Council on, because they come to us, frankly. In fact, they do a great job. They come to us and say, look, we've got a little bit of money this year. What can we partner with you on? And what we've done in the past, council, you've all been aware, we've tended to prioritize something a little higher when there's some matching funds from another group, as you were indicating as well. So does that make some sense, Gary? I mean, it's kind of not been, we kind of inherited this park, you know, and so this part of the park hasn't really been under our control, but I think we could possibly help. We would just have to work together with the council, the community council. Gary?
We went before the Bloomington,
Them?
and they showed or had some interest in helping and doing support, but it kind of just dropped at that, and it didn't go anywhere. So we're
Yeah.
trying to come to the next level and see if there's anything we can do to get that continued support.
Gary, do you have any thoughts?
Well, I think you're right on, Mayor. That's where I would go, and I think you'd have to show a use, a number of people would be benefiting from the thing, even though there may have only been a couple of kids on the field. When you maybe saw it, Little League uses that field quite a bit, as well as the money that we used to fund that was from the sale of the old Elks Field, and so it wasn't actually money that we took entirely out of the city general fund. We financed the most part.
We replaced a park with a park.
Replaced the park
Yeah.
with a park, and so that's how that got done. But I would suggest, if you bring something forward like you mentioned, if there's support and there's financial support, then it has to be put in that priority list, because you've got parks all over the place that are asking for additions to the parks. I mean, that very park, the Bloomington Community Council wanted to replace a lot of the equipment that's there for the kids. Plus, you budgeted in the budget this year a significant amount of money to replace the restrooms. I think it's a couple $100,000, if I remember right, to replace the restrooms there because of the use that's there. So it just needs to get on that list, and so it may go up or down based on the number of people that will benefit, plus the bringing some additional funds.
I'm happy to talk with, because I live in Bloomington too, I'm happy to help you by talking to the chairman of the council, who I think right now is Chris Cannon. He's a neighbor of mine. I'll be happy to talk with him, and we can at least help you maybe put it on the front burner with them. But as Gary said, it really is a matter of, they're competing priorities.
Yeah.
And there are other things we'd like to do for the citizens who use that park. It's considered a community park, which is a little bigger park and usually has some additional amenities, and so there's some other things we'd like to do, and we just haven't been able to afford to do them yet. So it kind of comes down to, I think we would really look heavily to the community council's recommendations on what's next and how it could be funded. Lights aren't cheap, but then again, maybe they don't have to be as expensive as the ones for the ball fields. I don't know.
We
So-
talked to the Parks Division and asked them if they could even have 2 lights off of the existing baseball fields, and they said no. So we've tried Bloomington City, we've tried the Parks Division, and so I don't know where we go from here, but I don't know. There's a lot of people in the community, obviously you live in Bloomington,
Yeah.
Sugar Leo, there's a lot of horses, would like to see what we need to do to get that. Something. Yeah, and it doesn't need to be a big expensive light. If we can get one that's off the baseball field, or, so I don't know what we do from here, but.
Well, let's coordinate on a bit with
I think a meeting like you mentioned, Mayor, because Bloomington Community Council comes in quite often.
They do.
And like you say, we don't really control that equestrian park. I mean, you schedule it, well, somebody schedules it, it's not us, that I'm aware of. And the access issue with the road on the one side is another issue, and maybe a meeting with the community council and have you guys there, with you and I and the mayor, that might work.
I'll keep your contact information, and I'll reach out to Chris Cannon. He's away a bit for the summer due to his job, but there are others. Maybe we can get together here in the next month or two.
Sounds great.
But we'll work on that. There are other things we can work on, as Gary said too, that would probably be helpful.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for bringing it up. Okay, I guess we will then go to the next item, 1A. Gary, if you want to take us through the agenda.
Do you want to go to public hearings since it's
Yeah,
5:30?
let's do, if that's okay. unless
I
we
think
have
the
any-
other ones, the bid openings can wait.
Okay.
The first public hearing is 3A. It's a public hearing to consider an ordinance and zone change from A1 to RE 12.5 on approximately 24 acres. Location is at approximately 2240 east, 3670 south. It's for the Fieldstone Phase 5 and 6. So this is the area that the applicant is requesting the zone change. Bentley Road is located here, Little Valley, Crimson. The city council recently approved A1 just south of this proposed application. The general plan is low density residential, which low density residential supports up to 4 dwelling units an acre. The applicant's proposal does fit within that LDR land use designation. You can see around it, you got LDR, and to the east, there's some rural residential, but their land use designation is LDR. The zoning, there's several different types of zoning within the area. To the north, there's R112 and R110, which is a standard subdivision. To the south is A1. To the east is RE 37.5 and also some A1. So there's a variety of different zoning in the area. This is the application. The applicant provided the exhibit showing the RE 12.5. During the Planning Commission meeting and after the public hearing, the applicant modified the request. The applicant proposed that the exterior, so the southern and the east boundary of the property, be rezoned to RE20, and that's about 7.28. And so they were changed the proposal to have larger lots on the exterior. RE20 is half-acre lots, and on the interior have RE 12.5, which is 12,500 square foot lots. So this is what the applicants proposed and modified during the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission, they spent a lot of time discussing it. They took public comment. They gave a different recommendation. They recommended that the property located to the north, adjacent to the R1 zones, which is R112 and R110, that be changed to RE20, which is half-acre lots, and the remaining portion of the property located to the south remain A1. That equates to about 7 acres of RE20 and roughly 16 acres of A1. So this was the Planning Commission's recommendation, is to leave the A1 adjacent to the other A1. And again, this was Planning Commission's recommendation. That concludes staff's presentation. If the Planning Commission has any questions, City Council has any questions.
Council, do you have questions for John?
So what was the acreage breakdown between the RE on the request, the applicant's request?
The applicant's request was the RE 12.5 was 16 acres, 16.65, and the RE 20 was 7.28 for the RE 20.
Any other questions, Council? Okay, thank you, John. I'm going to open the public hearing at this time for any from the public who've come to express their thoughts on this item 3A on our agenda. Guess I better hear from the applicant before we do that.
Thank you. Stacy Young with Development Solutions. I'll keep this extremely brief. I just wanted to extend just a couple of things that John touched on. As we considered the different options for this zone change application, the two primary guideposts for us were the general plan and the existing uses, in other words, the surrounding zones. And so the LDR designation, as John mentioned, allows from 1 to 4 units per acre. In zoning terms, that's R18 on the highest density end of things, and R140 or RE37.5 on the other. And so that's sort of the menu that we start with, and then we look to the specific context of the site. And as John mentioned, on the north we have R110, R112 zoning, and to the south we have A1. And so the goal was to figure out a zone or a combination of zones that would harmonize with what's existing there. And so one thing I wanted to provide a little more detail on is, let's see, how we came to this. So this is the south boundary of the zone change application. So I just wanted to help explain why the RE20 we think is a good transition zone or buffer zone. There's an existing road there, the 3670 South Street, that accesses the A1 lots to the south. That will extend through, and so this is a different situation than the parcel we just brought in a little while ago to the south. Down there we were really backing backyards to backyards, and here we have front yards and then a street between them. And so for us, that makes a fantastic way to transition from a less intense use to a slightly more intense use. So just to some of this print's very small, but we put in a typical lot size in an RE20 and a typical home size to kind of show how this would feel once you ended up building it. So from the one existing house to the other is about 117 feet in this span here. So that takes into account your street and your front setbacks. Once you add the two homes, you're about 260 feet. So that gives quite a bit of buffer in terms of the agriculture use that happens behind the house on one side of the street to the agriculture use that may or may not happen on the other side of the street. You can also see that your typical RE20 lot is not going to be half the width of an A1 lot. The dimensions, you're going to tend to put more of the lot size in the rear yard, and so you can see here that from one side of the street to the other is not an extreme transition. It's about 3.5 lots on one side of the street compared to 3 on the other. So I just wanted to highlight those couple of details just to. A lot of this is one-on-one stuff for you guys. You understand it well, but maybe for any interested folks to understand, to help them understand that we really did try to provide some thought to this and again respond to the general plan as well as the existing land uses in the area. So that's all I have, unless you have any questions for me for now.
Yeah, Stacy, just a quick. I know we're just considering a zone change, but with that zone change to the RE20. You could fit with your roads and everything. You could fit approximately how many RE20 lots on there?
The maximum in the RE20 zone is 1.2 units per acre. Obviously we've looked at this site, and the entire site probably will be just over 2 units per acre. So we've got 3 units per acre. Just to put it kind of in numerical terms, we're at 3 units an acre to our north, about 1 unit per acre to the south, and we split the difference at 2. The RE20 section is going to be, we'll probably be at around 1 unit per acre once you take out roads and everything for that strip around there. So it'll be comparable density.
And in the RE12.5, it roughly?
That allows, I think that's 2.6 or 7 units per acre.
Per acre.
But again, the way the dimensions of the site don't really allow to max it out. Like I said, the entire site will end up being just over 2 units per
Two
acre.
units per acre. Okay.
Stacy, may I ask you if you would let the public know how this plan enhances the connectivity of the roadways in this general area for transportation, and what is the size of the widest road that's going to be through here?
That's been, how can I back this up? Is it swipe? Doesn't like something about me. I think I'm here. It's a great question. So we'll have one connecting road to the north here. This road, this was the one we were just looking at. So 3670 is a through street from Little Valley Road over to a master planned road along the wash along the west boundary here. This one was master planned at a 90, but we've downzoned so much in this area that in talking to staff, I don't think that's going to be desired or necessary. So I think we've settled on about 66. I think 66 feet is the
66?
Yeah. So that'll be your kind of your minor collector along the west side of this. Then you'll have good connectivity through 3 other points of connection into the project.
Thank you.
Other questions for the applicant? Okay. Thank you, Stacy. So now the public hearing is open for anyone who'd like to offer comments on this. And if when you come forward, if you just state your name for the record.
Hi, I am Rhonda Blake, and we live at the 2216 East, 3670 South, which is this house right here. So this 3670 South is the main road that they want to have go through and continue on. It's a dirt road right now, and they want to pave it and continue on to make this highway back here. This will essentially wipe out this resident Barlow's barns and horse arena and his lifestyle, or his roping arena and things that he has for his lifestyle there. In putting RE20 here, it sounds like to me, at least that's what I understood of what Stacy just said, that it actually doubles or possibly triples the amount of homes that can be right along this road. And along this road in particular, we do have a lot of heavy trailers. We currently actively use livestock on every single one of these lots, and including this property right here, which is the Klomps. At the last meeting, as to why this was recommended to be RE20 here and the rest A1, is because out of all these A1 homes that are all through here, there are 65 homes, and 50% of them still actively use all large animals. To remain consistent with the development along this area, what Planning Commission said was that this plan that Stacy proposes seems to only benefit the developer and not the community that lives there. The master plan has not been updated since 2011 and is somewhat outdated for the type of population and community that we currently have. We do have another comment that was made at the last Planning Commission, and I'm not sure that they realized it, but we did turn in signatures, and a comment was made by Councilman Fisher that the people on Pasture Lane up here must not care because they weren't present. Well, they all signed that petition. This entire neighborhood signed the petition to keep this A1. And so based upon some of the comments, we did get another petition just to specifically address that particular issue, that every home along here that is affected or currently occupied sign this petition, as well as everybody along this street that is affected by this property, just so you had an updated list. Here's a new petition that addresses that. The consensus still remains that we would like to have this all just remain A1 with nothing to change, to keep our last remaining Little Valley A1 properties there. That's it. This is all there is. There's a natural barrier along this washed where it can't extend any further. This is all we have for A1 in that area. I just noticed on your agenda tonight, too, it appears that there's also more requests to change more zoning down, I'm kind of confused where all the map is, but take away more A1 and make it even smaller condensed areas. So the goal was within this community, this is all we have left. Where are we supposed to go when you make this a, he says it's like a low population, but to us, when you live on an acre and you want to throw 4 houses to an acre, that's high population. That's a lot of density going in there. We appreciate that there is a road that is wider coming here and the front doors face each other, but you still have people that have a completely different lifestyle across the street that are not conducive to what we do here, that when they don't have the same rights we do, it becomes, well, why are you bringing 12 horses in your backyard? Why do you have more than 1 cow? Why do you have, chickens out or whatever? We don't want to have these problems along the street. And making it a feathering issue between the RE10 to RE12 to the RE20 makes more sense, although everyone on that list that I just handed you does want A1 in their backyard. But as a compromise to be reasonable, which we're not unreasonable people, that to make that RE20 make sense. These people here are already attached to the Bullies, which was the old Bentley farm. There's a barn, there's an arena. These houses are already next to basically a large A1 property. There's only these few houses that remain that would be affected at all, and having RE20 with their backyards facing an arena, or however they design this plat, they wouldn't really be affected. They would be better joined in the backyards between these people here. So we're okay, although we'd like the A1 completely, to keep it the way the City Planning Commission proposed. We think that's a better use of the property. It's a more effective plan for our community as a whole, and keeps our little valley and our agricultural lifestyle still there. I think we've overpopulated and extremely put tons of density of other homes everywhere else. Keep this intact. So,
Okay, thank you.
any questions?
Now, we can comment. We'll have some discussion before we conclude. Other comments?
Hi, I am Aaron Klomp. I'm sorry I was late. I missed. If I repeating the comments, I apologize.
You're fine, Aaron. Thanks. You're welcome to come in and go out anytime. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. I sent an email yesterday. I'm not sure if you got it or not, but I just wanted to comment on just some of the studies and stuff that I have been looking at in other places in St. George. We've seen where there's been the attempt at integration of higher residency housing with agricultural kind of stuff, and in Green Valley and other areas of the city, and that hasn't worked out. In general, the higher density that comes in afterwards, there tends to be some civil discontent and general dissatisfaction. And so I got on and did a fair amount of research just across the country to see if there had been any successful models of where that may have worked. I was unsuccessful in finding any models that did work. There was one study that I came across that was a sociologist and a psychologist put together a computer program and ran a bunch of models to try and see if there was some way to try and get this kind of a thing to work. And after running 20 million scenarios, they were unsuccessful in ever finding a scenario that worked. Their recommendation from those studies and then from other studies that I came across was that within a city, diversity and heterogeneity are excellent things. It makes for a strong city. But within neighborhoods, they had the best success when they had homogeneous neighborhoods to create diversity across the city, if that makes sense. And so in this case, St. George is an incredible city. It's growing faster than a lot of places in the country. It's one of the top 10 places for people to go, and there's growth and there's building. There are a lot of things going on all around St. George. There are lots of areas of new growth and development, higher density. This, from my understanding, is the last area of true agricultural option within the city limits. This is an opportunity to maintain this neighborhood in a homogeneous state that, in the long run, is more beneficial to the city. I just wanted to bring that to your attention. I know that you may have read or heard that stuff before. My personal interest in it is that if you look right here, this little 3.5 acre plot here is my sweetie and I own this, and we keep some cows on it, and so we are grateful to have this area down here remain agricultural to A1 lots, and just for the sake of, you know, my personal interest is that, but for the entire neighborhood, I think that would be beneficial to keep it more homogeneous, to forced integration of higher density residential compared to agricultural has yet to find success anywhere in the country that I have been able to find. Anyway, that's all I have for you, so thank you for listening.
Thank you, Aaron. Hey, can you tell me, do you live close by there?
Yes, I live right here on 3770, about halfway up.
Okay.
So
And are those A1?
All of these lots here are A1 lots.
Okay.
And these lots over here are A1 lots. This area, this RE 37.5, there is one family that owns these 5 acres right here. They have explored the option of returning it to A1 lots, but they're probably just going to do one big family farm kind of a thing there. And then these 3 acres, I believe, belong to a church, but I can't remember if that's the 3 that they own or not.
Do you keep all or just some of your animals on your other property?
Behind our house, we keep goats, and then when the kids do their 4-H pigs, we do the pigs. When we have steers to fatten, we keep the steers behind our house. But for the most part, we keep the steers down here.
Okay.
So
Thank you. Any other questions for Dr. Klomp?
Aaron, may I ask you, what size is your lot that you have?
we're on an A1 and 1 acre ag lot.
So you're 1 acre?
Mm-hmm.
And then he's got the other one.
And then we have this second
Sure.
area of 3.5 acres down here, which is just one big pasture.
Just little. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Other comments? Okay. Seeing none, then I'll close the public hearing at this time. Like to have, John, could you just again maybe come forward and thank you. And just clarify again.
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I just think for the record, there needs to explain, the first speaker, Mrs. Blake, indicated that those 3 lots plus the vacant lot would be affected by the roadway. I think the council needs to know that the city worked with Mr. Barlow, Jeff Barlow, when he came in and wanted to subdivide that and divide it up. And there's an agreement on record that they will participate in the costs of that improvements on that road. We didn't require sewer to go in at the time. And, you know, normally that was a subdivision. It would have been required to put the street in and all the improvements in. And we recognized at that time that that wasn't appropriate for him. The cost would be prohibitive. So we allowed those 4 homes to go in, basically. I think there's 4. 3 in 1 lot. So there's actually a subdivision there that doesn't meet the subdivision ordinance of the city. And it was done waiting on the future development of that property down there. And they all, at least Jeff knew that at some point he'd have to build the road and he'd have to put the sewer in and the water in. I guess the water's in, but to connect with the sewer. And so that shouldn't be a surprise that on the master plan that road was going to go down and connect into the other road down below, because that was discussed before those permits were issued for that those homes to be built.
Just thank you, Gary. I think that's important. John, what I was looking for is can you clarify again what the master plan says? I think we need to be very clear on that, because that's our guiding document.
It is.
That was approved by prior council, and again, what that date, I think it was mentioned 2011. Can you just clarify that?
Yep. So the Little Valley Master Plan, it was approved in 2007, and then there was an amendment after that. General plans are guiding documents. They're intended to be a long-term document to help the development of property in areas, and most general plans are expected to last 20 years. I don't think the Little Valley Master Plan is out of date. When this was approved, this area was designated as low-density residential. Low-density residential has zoning classifications, and the most dense classifications are R18 is the most dense. Less dense is RE 37.5, and there's the variety of different zoning within those. There are, in this area, when the Little Valley Master Plan was approved, or sub-area plan, a lot of this existing agriculture uses, there was equestrian buffers put in to help mitigate some of the potential impacts of surrounding developments. You can see where this area is rural residential. Rural residential is low density. It's the RE 37.5s and even less dense. And so the Little Valley Master Plan intended this area to be low density residential within that zoning range.
And just to, again, from my personal perspective, I was elected to the city council right after that 2007 plan was approved by the prior council, and there were 3 of us that came in new that year, 2008, and we revisited that section and went through. We formed a committee, and some people in this room were involved with that committee, and really I can't remember how many meetings we had, but I want to say 10 and ish, and we kind of tried to hash through it all. We made some compromises. When the council revisited it in this room, and I don't know, Jimmy, if you were on it yet. I think, were you not yet? And so, because I think it was 11 when that happened. So we spent several years working on it, and again, it was again trying to compromise and say, okay, and we did tweak somewhat. We decreased the density, and said, okay, well, we didn't totally, no one won totally, but we did decrease the average density. So I don't know, it is a plan, but I think, property owners, it's always difficult, and this is what the council will have to deal with today. It's always difficult, and Jimmy's right, in the heart of this, has property in the general vicinity here, so I'm sure he'll have some comments, but when you have a plan that is your guiding document, that was heard previously not that long ago, it is considered, I think you're correct, I think it is up to date. I think if we were to do it again, it would be similarly done after the process we went through before. So I just want to make sure everyone knows, and there were a lot of people, residents involved. We held meetings in Little Valley as well as, with the committee, as well as, bigger public meetings. And then, of course, the public hearings at the Planning Commission and the council. Yeah. So, I realize it's never easy, but we did go through this several times before.
And the original, the 2007 plan that was approved, the planning process started in 2005, and so it took 2 years to develop that plan.
Yeah. The other thing is, and this is again something we have to decide as a council, is we're once again in a position of being encouraged to have more affordable options for housing. So how do you do that? Land costs, I heard it on the radio this morning, they're probably about as high as the market can stomach, if you will, and there are people wanting more options. None of these are considered high density options, as you just described. Now, in this room, we could disagree on what high density is, right, Jimmy? And so, and someone mentioned that. But, you know, believe me, I'm getting hit as an elected official for when are you going to have more affordable options in St. George? So we need to wrap our arms around that as well. But any questions before we have further discussion for John?
Yes, I'd like to follow up a little bit on the connectivity of roads. And that road that on the north end that's designated to go through, what's the next road south of that one? It's going to connect at the south end. Is there another road that's going to allow the public to traverse from one end of Little Valley on this?
Commerce Drive connects
Yeah.
to that road along the Fort Pierce Wash, and I think that's the major connection is that Bentley Road goes up and then dead ends into that vacant property, or there's a subdivision right there. There's an easement issue with regard to it can't go through without condemnation, as I understand, with the way the subdivision was platted way back.
And on the west side is where you're saying we'll probably be downgrading to a 66-foot
Yeah.
roadway.
Yeah, this road here, because Little Valley, the plan originally anticipated higher density, and so as we've gone through and we've done the zoning and we've looked at the subdivisions, we realized that some of these roads don't need to be as wide as they are, and so this road, this 90-foot master plan road, has been reduced to a 66.
And our widest city right-of-way is 90. So it's not as wide, it wouldn't be even close to as wide as 3000 East, which is 90.
Right, and so Crimson is a 60, and so it's going to be wider than Crimson. It'll be the next step up from Crimson, which is a 60.
And it'll end up going through the Bryce Christensen's yard there, and these
Connecting
gravel
onto
pit
Horseman.
that will connect
Horseman's
into
Park.
Horseman's Park at some point in time. When that happens, I'm not sure what his plans are to change the use of that property, but it would eventually hook into Horseman's Park.
With the existing road going past the Barlow property going east and west, it was mentioned that was going to wipe out some of his arena and stuff, but that's not necessarily the case, is it? How is that discussion going? Where's that road going? Cameron?
Sorry, Wes. You were ready.
Wes is better than I am. We've had discussions with Jeff Barlow, and whatever effect that he has on that west side, he does have some feed bins and stuff right there that we had told him, look, we'll try and, if this ends up going through, we'll try and that roadway to the north of him, so that as the roadway comes through, to provide him more space, we want to try and angle that roadway a little bit to the north. And so we will negotiate with the developer, if it does go through, to be able to mitigate the property that we get from him on the west side, to give him some on the north side, so that he has the turnaround area and everything like that. And so we're trying to increase the property to the north for whatever gets taken on the west side potentially.
And the developers okay with that? Amy
We've mentioned it to him. We've talked to him. It'll come down to how the lots are there, and probably having to buy some property from him for that roadway.
So Cameron, is that pretty much in keeping with the master plan of connecting these roads and getting the people from the east side of Little Valley, getting them through there?
Yeah.
And it's an essential part of that?
It is, and so a lot of the complaints that we've gotten in the past few years about Crimson Ridge Drive and 2350 up by the school, and the other one's 2240, I think, and some going down through Horseman Park. These roadways, as they're connected and fully connected, how the plan is, and it will bring those roadways back down to disperse that traffic around. And so that's the purpose of trying to connect the roadways, so you don't have the issues the complaints and stuff that we have been having as people move in and then increase traffic, because they're very limited, the amount of roadways that are there.
And the 66-foot roadway would suffice to be able to move all that traffic?
Yeah. The 66 and the 60 are about the same to be able to handle the same volumes. It's different. The difference is whether you park on one side of the roadway. The 90-foot road, we felt like because it only fronts one side, you can only load it one-sided from the east side, and because the wash fronts it on the west side, you don't really need a 90-foot road. A 66 would suffice.
Thank you.
I think we've also seen, especially like on Bluff Street, which is not a city road, but that's not going to be a straight road. You know, and maybe we have to do something there to adjust to those houses that are already there.
That's right. That's right. With Jeff, as we were talking, we were pushing that as far to the wash as possible, and actually narrowing it from your 66 typical asphalt width of like 49 feet, I think, is it, Wes? Reducing it down to try and just get the lanes of traffic that we need through there.
Cameron, that's important. So asphalt width is not 66, just for the public, it's 49-ish. And then there's curb and gutter and
Yep. And
sidewalk.
through past Jeff Barlow's, we were narrowing it down more. A 50-foot roadway has 35 feet of pavement, and that allows 2 lanes of traffic to go through there, and you can park on either side. But I think we were actually narrowing it closer to a 50-foot road right next to Jeff Barlow's so that we did not affect his corral as much. And there are some feeder bins right there on the side that we were going to see if we can put on the north side and then allow that additional property to the north. And that's why we were pushing that roadway to the north.
Any other questions for Cameron while we've got him? Jimmy, any comments, or council, any discussion?
My dilemma is this proposal that the applicant's putting forward is, compared to where we have been, is kind of a win in my book. But I'm struggling. You know, if I was the king of St. George, and I've said this before, that would stay a hayfield because that's what I like to see, and that's really conducive to an agricultural lifestyle. Fortunately for you all, I'm not the king of St. George, and we've shunned that form of government. And so, you know, and we've battled this battle down there, and we've come up with these restrictions, and we've come up with these ideas to try to promote the agricultural lifestyle there, which we absolutely want people in our community that want that lifestyle to have a place to go. Surprisingly to me, that parcel to the south went through, and the applicant went with A1, and I wasn't even here to make sure that happened. And so I do have to give credit where credit's due. As much as I've complained and moaned up here about these smaller lots, to the point where I won't even make a motion on an R18, the applicant has tried to listen to that general plan idea of creating, you know, a critical mass that we talk about sometimes, so that agricultural property can be sustainable. The other dilemma is I go down there where some of those 1 acre lots have been developed, and our desired effect I don't really see happening, because what's happening is there's large homes being built, all right, but very few animal people. Large man caves in the backyard, and we've approved hundreds of those where it seems like hundreds, every city council meeting. It's another RV garage extending the height restrictions. And so I'm not sure. I don't know if agricultural people I know can afford one of those acre lots anymore. And that's unfortunately for some, fortunate for others who own the property. The first mistake we made was when we let 1 acre lots go into this farm ground. We should have stayed 5 acres. Again, that's the growing pains. And so my problem, on one hand, I would like to see that stay agricultural land. On the other hand, the natural progression or the natural buffer there is all of these lots that they've come in would be, with this new zoning is approved, are agricultural lots. Even the 12.5, they can have animals. Yeah, maybe not as many, but they can. And I'm a little shocked that we're actually to that point where that's coming in that way, because before, if you remember back before even maybe your time, Mayor, that whole area was being planned for, you know, way high density, and it was a big brouhaha. So that's my dilemma. Again, I'm not arguing against the Planning Commission's recommendation, but I'm also looking at the property owner's rights. There's another thing that hits me in my gut. I built my home behind my brother's property because he had horse pasture and corrals. I built a gate in my backyard so I could go in there, and that idiot's put a cul-de-sac in and is building a house in my backyard. You know, and I told him, hey, I should flex my muscle and make you keep that agriculture. Now he calls me a communist. So it's a no-win situation. I mean, you know, he saw the writing on the wall. The houses came in. He bailed, and now I don't have that agricultural property in my backyard. Where my farm ground is now, I'm down in the Washington Fields. I'm surrounded. I got a high school being built across the street. I've got a park on one side by my irrigation ditch. It's, you know, it's a natural a thing. Some people hate me. Some of the neighbors hope I never leave because they want to be next to the horses and the cows. So I don't know. I'm struggling with this. The problem, I guess, my biggest problem is the developer in this situation has tried to listen, and they're trying to provide a product that people want to buy. There's that side of it as well, and trying to mitigate the concerns of the neighbors. So I'm in a conundrum.
Well, and there's always the difficulty, and you know, we all know this, I think, in our heads. But my guess is, just a guess, the property owner would probably sell this entire parcel for a sum of money if someone wanted to keep it as it is. But we can't always do that. We can't, you know, I mean, if I could buy that, how many total acres is it? 24?
Close.
I'll bet you that the property owner would sell it to me for a certain amount of money, and I could keep it just as it is. But, you know, there aren't very many property owners that want to, and I don't think this one wants to continue to do it as it has been. And it's expensive, and the water issues are there, and so then what happens if we were to try to force the property owner to do something that she doesn't want to do? I wonder what would happen with the property. Would it stay green? I don't know, because there does come a point where people can't afford or don't wish to maintain the same lifestyle that others wish they would. And so it comes back to Jimmy's comment is, when we're here, pretty much every time we're here, we're dealing with property rights. And, you know, whose do we look after? And in this case, you know, we've previous council that does not bind the hands of future councils. And we could have come in and gone through a process and changed the general plan of this area, but we haven't done that. So right now we have a guiding document. It's there, and as Jimmy said, I think the applicant has made some pretty good concessions. Council, it's your determination at this point whether you want to make a motion, have further discussion, whatever you'd like.
Mayor, I'm ready to make a motion.
Mayor, I'd like to make a comment first. Betty, if you don't mind.
No, go ahead.
My recollection of this is noted that the mayor's review of what actually transpired, I happened to be present at some of those many meetings, and you're pretty accurate exactly as to what took place. You go back, excuse me, you go back quite a few years now, but it's pretty accurate, and the density initially intended to be there was quite high, and there was accommodations made by the developer to reduce it to what we're seeing now, and it's quite a bit of change that has taken place. I remain very concerned with the positions taken by the previous councils as far as connectivity on roadways as part of the overall design and idea that we had to be able to get people across town from one end of the little valley to the other. So I think really a comment I want to make is on the affordable housing issue that you raised, Mayor. It just happened to, and I'll share this with you folks, that at the 4th of July celebration, I happened to be seated next to a young man, and I asked him what he was doing down here. He said, "Oh, I'm here visiting." He shared with me that he is an auditor for a mortgage company up north. He says, "We have an office down here in St. George." He says, but without knowing who I was or what my position was or anything, he says, "I just can't understand why we got such real high, expensive houses here, and then there's nothing in between. We drop down to the lower end, and we do need more affordable housing." And this is somebody that has an idea of what it takes and the need to have a mixture in the community. We can't have all acre lots or even half-acre lots. It's a necessity and something that we're charged with the responsibility to be able to provide housing for this different market, in between markets. So I just wanted to share that with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed.
Mayor, after listening to lots of discussion on this and the philosophy, I really do appreciate Jimmy's position. but I feel like this is something that a lot of effort and thought has been put into it, and I would like to move to approve a zone change from A1 agricultural to RE 12.5 residential estate on approximately 24 acres in the Fieldstone Phase 5 and 6.
Second.
I have a question on that.
Hang on, we do have a motion by Betty and a second by Ed. Discussion. Joe?
This last presentation that we saw, there was RE 20 on part of that,
On the south side.
and you had only said 12.5.
And
I
that's
think
what
you
the-
meant, I think you were meaning to approve the applicant's recommendation, which
Yes.
was, included the 12, or the
Yes.
20 along that street next to the, across the street from the RA1.
It changed as John represented. It changed it a little bit from the,
Just to be clear, RE 20 on the 7.8
Right.
acres approximately,
Yeah.
directly across the street from the existing A1.
And then the balance would be
the
that.
balance
Balance
would
would
be
be
12.
RE 12.5.
That's right.
Yeah.
Would you amend your motions as such?
Yes.
And Ed, second?
That was my understanding, yes.
Okay, so thank you, Joe. And any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, starting with Joe, say aye.
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 The motion carries unanimously. Thank you, everyone, for your involvement, your consideration, and we'll move forward. Ray, welcome.
Thank you. Let me get this graphic up here. All right, Mayor and City Council. Next item is item 3B under public hearings. Public hearing to consider a zone change amendment to develop a C-store along with a covered fueling and a car wash and a 50-foot tall flagpole in the PDC zone on approximately 1.5 acres for Terrible Herbst. It's located at the northeast corner of the intersection of Sun River Parkway and Pioneer Road. So again, what I just read is on the screen for council and public to develop basically a C-store, gas station, car wash, and a request for the flagpole. And there's a main building about 5,000 square feet, a car wash about 1,800, so about 7,200 square foot of improvements there. The height really averages about 22 feet. There's some sections that you'll see that go up the maximum of 34 feet, but they're more architectural. This shows the location. Here where I'm pointing with the arrow is Pioneer Road. Here where I'm pointing is Sun River, and red outlines the parcel of property. For reference, the freeway would be here where I'm pointing. This shows the zoning and the general plan. The zoning is plan development commercial, which would support the use, and general plan is commercial. This is a colored site plan, the entire plan here, and then enlarged. Again, Sun River Parkway is along here and Pioneer. This is a landscape plan, and it shows Pioneer and Sun River Parkway. I think what I'll point out on here is that this is a C-store. This is the gas canopy, and here is a car wash. It's not a self-car wash, it's automatic, so you would drive through. So the back of the building, which is a car wash, would face Sun River Parkway. And from Sun River Parkway, you won't see the gas canopy because it will be out of view at this point because of the car wash and the C-store. Just for reference, here's the floor plan that's proposed. I won't dwell on this except to point out here's the car wash driving through, the equipment room for it, and then the C-store. Included in the plan was a photometric plan. Staff looked at it. We talked a lot with the Planning Commission. Most all of the site, I know it's a little hard to read, all of these points are foot candles, and they look very reasonable and down to one at the property line. However, it was felt that under the canopy was too high. These numbers, you can probably see some of them, 77, 78, up to 87 foot candles. It was felt that the levels were too high. Now, you don't have it in a packet, but we've had some emails and some correspondence, and basically it shows that they've come back and they've proposed to reduce this so that the email says, I took 62 foot candle data points under the canopy and calculated the average. The average is now 10.31 foot candles. We think that's a significant improvement.
Ray, can you comment on how, because I don't remember the numbers, how that compares to where we've been looking at going with, in terms of our dark sky initiative?
I can comment quite a bit, and then John might want to come in and make a couple comments. I've used a light meter many times at many locations. If I went out to Walmart at night, you would see 4 foot candles. Under a street light, you might see the same. 10 is, we think, a good number. We're trying to avoid the illumination, the overpowering, the light pollution, and some of the other places that you've seen right at street level, they've been up to 25 foot candles. Again, we want that down to 1. So I'll be quiet and see what John
Thank you, Ray.
When we looked at our draft, we had a range from 8 to 10, and so
Yeah.
this fits in the upper range, but it's still a good number, and they're going to recess their lighting. And so with the discussion with Planning Commission, we felt comfortable that 10 would be appropriate. It'll limit the illumination that we've been trying to avoid. Part of the Planning Commission recommendation was also cut off and recess lighting, and so with the residential across the street, this is in line with what we've been looking at.
That was my next question, was the recess, so thank you.
As I understand that, Mayor, the for the public information, the proposed lighting ordinances that we're looking at is intended to reduce a lot of that bright lights that we're seeing throughout some of these recent developments, and it's been a concerted effort to be able to accomplish that feat. And this satisfies it. Have you gotten any other reports from the residents in there as far as the lighting? Is that the only
not that I'm aware from the residents. Again, we just feel that this is a significant improvement from what was submitted.
Thank you, Ray. Other things?
This shows the building elevations. The top one here is the east. This is the north. The north elevation is the main entrance, which is again just facing away from Sun River Parkway. This is the east. You can see the equipment building, the car wash, the C-store. And then the west elevation, which would be should be along Pioneer Road. And then the south elevation, this is what it would look like from Pioneer Road. If they didn't have the trees and landscaping there, you would see the equipment building, the car wash, and then the seesaw itself. These paint a better picture of the colored renderings. Again, this would be the front facing towards the freeway, basically, the east. I'm sorry, this would be north going here. Get myself turned around. And a close-up of it, you can see the articulation, the earth tone colors, the brick, the synthetic stucco. And then this is showing the drive-through to go through the car wash. Again, most of the building is about 22 feet. The highest point up here is about 34, single story. And just moving around the building, they'll have an outside area for patrons to be able to sit, and you've seen that at several others like Maverick. And then here's the canopy. We're just talking about that. The other views, you didn't see this, but as John mentioned, the lighting is proposed to be recessed and then reduced down. And another view, this doesn't show the colors. This was an older picture, but we put it in because it gives you an idea of the canopy. Now, Mayor and Council, I do have the materials board here. In your packet, the last sheet is a printed copy of it. We can pass it around, or if it's just a good reference to know that it's up there to you. And this is what it is on the screen. So in conclusion, the Planning Commission does recommend approval. I won't read everything that they said, but it's on the third sheet. Number 1 addresses uses. The use fits with that PDC because that area, that is part of the Actonville zoning designation area 2.1, which says the PD zone will have C2 uses, and the C2 uses say that a gas station is permitted. A car wash is a CUP, but there's no CUPs with a zone change amendment and a PDC, so you will just be looking at that and determine if you feel that's appropriate. Planning Commission acknowledged roadway improvements. 3 is a big one for you, the design, the building elevations, colors, materials is presented. 4, pretty typical language that they'll have to do civil engineering plans. 5 will look at setbacks. 6, parking seems to meet and exceed the requirements. They'll look at drainage. Our engineers will verify that. And then I'll skip to 9, lighting. We talked about that. A photometric plan has been provided. The levels appear very high and should be reduced to not exceed 10, and that's what's happened. That's what they've come back and shown you after Planning Commission. Landscaping, they'll have to submit plans, but they've showed us conceptually, and it looks like it meets and exceeds requirements. Building height and the flagpole, and this approval does not address signage. That would be under separate approvals. So sorry to take so long. That concludes the presentation. The applicant, Scott, is here. Scott McCall, if you have any questions also.
First of all, any questions for Ray?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like, Ray, is there a distinction to be made to get a better view in your mind if you're at home or you're here listening to this process on that lighting between the distinction between the gas pumps where the lighting is and the car wash? And I'm thinking of the lighting that we're experiencing on River Road where we have that car wash on the South River Road at 1450. Is this lighting going to be mitigated down so it's not going to be really a stark, bright light that you can see?
We think from what we see in the photometric plan, it will not be stark. If you look at this rendering, you can see most of the lights are down. They've got the dark sky shielding on the top so that it's not escaping. On the building itself, they're all look to be lower levels, and I'm trying to get back to the photometric plan real quick. We've looked at all these lighting levels here around the building and on the outskirts, and they look good to us. We were concerned about the canopy in the Planning Commission. That's what's been reduced. We will look at this even closer when it comes through plan check, and we'll make sure that there's no lights here that are nothing different than what I showed you on the front of the building. Scott will probably talk about the elevations. I believe because of the way this is situated and the height difference between Sun River, you're not going to have, we don't think, a broadcasting glare, if that answers your question.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Any other questions for Ray? Otherwise, we'll invite Scott up if you'd like to make any comments. Sorry, Jimmy, did you have something?
No, I was just curious. Most terrible ERPs I've been to have slot machines. That's not going to be part of this?
It's a departure.
Okay.
Yeah. They're rolling the dice, so to speak. They're going to try to make money without that. Okay, so just the roller. Okay. Scott McCall with Sun River Development, and we're doing a gas station. So I think this is the most representative elevation that we have out there. That's exactly what we're intending on building. These are the colors that we've got on our board and the materials. And Terrible Herbst is going to make a run at us. But we're looking forward to having a place out there. This is kind of a little interesting because we've got a lot of constrained traffic on Pioneer Road, or at least we're anticipating that. This big loop road here will be the out traffic. It's full movement. Oops. It's full movement up at this point. But it'll be right in, right out here with a median blocking the traffic.
Mm-hmm.
Right across here is going to be one of the loops for the hotel project that's underway. So that'll work in concert that way.
I'd love to see that.
Yeah.
Looking ahead.
Have you seen the hotel?
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty substantial out there.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to that. There was a question about whether this would shine on the homes at the villas, which are just south of the parkway right here. And the villas will be about 16 feet lower than the roadway elevation with a berm on top of that. So they won't have direct view of the gas station whatsoever.
So Scott, is that height that's shown there on the villas, the finished grade?
It's
Alongside the
You
road?
can't quite see it yet.
Okay.
Yeah, right along Airhead Canyon,
Yeah.
it's shaping up really well, but the mass grading in the corner by the freeway, it's not quite to grade yet.
The other thing is the canopy, which is what kind of concerns me, would concern me the most, is on the
Right.
other side.
Yeah.
Which
Other
I think
side,
is smart.
exactly. Yeah.
In terms of
think
the
it'll be-
lighting that could,
Yeah, we're also really trying to anticipate the design of this overall parcel so it doesn't get too piecemeal. We've got an association, commercial association in place that should be able to, will be able to control architectural, so we have a consistent look. We have traffic that flows well. This road might come out at some point, but there'll be a replacement road that'll do the same thing. But, we'll have an initial road that'll extend out this way, very logically. And, looking
Serve
at
another-
different things that can go in different places, but nothing for sure yet.
That 50-foot flagpole, you're going to have a light on that flag flying at night?
I don't know. I haven't heard that. The Terrible Herbst people requested that, and I heard today, I guess they have very large flagpoles at all their stations, and they have a full-time guy that drives around just maintaining their flagpoles.
as long as they either take the flag down at night or they light it,
Or they light it.
then
Yeah,
that's
the
proper
rules I
flag
understand.
etiquette, we've learned.
Right.
Yeah.
They did ask before Planning Commission whether we could get a 70-foot. And I brought that up, and I kind of got some stares, like people don't really want to deal with that right now.
Hey, we just approved
So-
a 150-foot one.
Right.
I was
so
gonna-
thought it was a
70?
shoo-in.
I was going to
I
say
thought it was a-
50 foot, that's nothing.
Nothing,
What are they
man.
I
thinking?
thought this was a shoe-in. But we are going to do a master signage plan for that whole parcel because we'll probably have a sign pylon by the freeway. So we want to have a coordinated plan. We want to do some monuments on both sides. Both sides are going to be Sun River Commons. So we'll have a little monument here and a little monument here. That'll be Sun River Commons. But we'll do a coordinated plan. So you'll see that at a later date and maybe a request for a taller flagpole at that time. But we'll go through a comprehensive plan.
Okay. Any other questions?
I have one question
Yeah.
that probably really needs to be for John. The ordinance as it stands now permits a 35-foot flagpole? Okay.
Without a CUP.
Right.
Correct.
So, yeah.
Right.
So it doesn't need to be because it can just be part of the PD. Yeah.
And the hotel is about 70 feet, so I'm not sure that another 70-foot object would be, horrible, but
Yeah.
we'll probably bring that back to you at a later date.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Council, any other discussion before we open the public hearing? Okay, then the public hearing is open for this item 3B on our agenda. And again, if you just state your name for the record, sir.
Yeah, my name is John Carey. I just entered into a contract out in Sun River, currently live over in Primrose. I have two major concerns about this project. The first one being, as Ed brought up, if we're going to have a flag that's going to be flown at night, how is the lighting going to be handled to meet with the dark skies? That's one of the reasons I'm moving out to Sun River, is to get away from the light pollution downtown. And so I'm very concerned that if we start putting flags on every place, start shining all their lights up, we're going to lose all of our stars. And so I'm concerned about that. The other thing I'm concerned about is the way the entrance is and the road here. And I think if we look at the Maverick out to Sienna Hills, there's a situation similar to this where there's a road that goes around a vacant lot, and you can go out there just about any time and see a whole bunch of anyway, you can see a whole bunch of semi-trailers and tractor trailers sitting out there. Now, I understand from what I can read in the city ordinances and in the uses for C2, don't touch that. A convenience store is allowed and a gas station is allowed, but there's no distinction between a convenience store, a gas station, a travel plaza, or a truck stop. With all of this extra room around this, how can we be sure that this isn't going to turn into a full-blown truck stop? And if so, how are we going to handle all that traffic? I think if we look at the shell, at the double roundabout, I think that we can see some of the problems when we start getting all that truck traffic in. And I just want to know how that's going to be mitigated if that starts to become a problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe the applicant, would you care to address that from your perspective?
Well, the canopy wouldn't accommodate trucks, so it wouldn't be a good fueling station. So I think that's self-limiting right there. But whether people would start parking their trucks there, we occasionally see one out there already, but it's pretty occasional. And I think we would just need to go with trespassing laws and sign it properly, because that's not really something we'd want to encourage. We don't want RVs parked all over out there, even though there are a few of those. We're hoping that's still temporary as we build the last phase of our RV storage place, and then we'll probably be more firm about that as well. But yeah, we wouldn't want to see a lot of that happening.
Thank you. Sean, anything you'd say from terms of ordinance perspective?
On the public streets, we wouldn't allow the overnight parking of those semis on those streets, and really they're supposed to be there for just active loading and unloading. We've seen that problem around, it's true, around the other one we've been addressing, and I think it's gotten better, actually, since we've been addressing that issue.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
this is a PD commercial, right? And so the uses that you see in the PD determine what's going to be built there. So by your action tonight, you're actually precluding that from happening on this parcel, the 1.5 acres. Now, you can't do it on the rest of it, but some of the uses in the C2 zone would be more liberal than what this PD commercial zone you're talking about tonight. And I agree with what Sean was saying. We're fighting that particular issue in a lot of places in the city, and we have to go in and stripe it, and we have to enforce it.
Put up signs.
And so, because we don't want to see this every street out on our entrances to our city lined with those vehicles. So we are actively trying to discourage that in other parts of the city right now.
Any other comments from the public before we close the public hearing? Okay. Thank you. We'll close the public hearing at this point and come back to you, council, for any discussion, any follow-up questions, and or for your action.
I have a question, Mayor, and I've never seen this, and this may go along with the lights on the flagpole. Could the lights be above the flagpole? I mean, hooked to the top of the flagpole and still shine down? It would spill that way, but it would take it away from going up into outer space.
You wouldn't need a bright light if you did that, because
You wouldn't need as bright a light? I don't think so either.
want to illuminate the flag. That's
Would go out again. Yeah.
I've seen a couple of different things. I don't know, maybe that's something they can explore a little bit.
Yeah.
But
I just have to say something. It's going to be the death of me, I'm sure. I do appreciate that people want quiet and dark. I do. And I guess I missed it somewhere where the Dark Sky Initiative started in our national parks. And we wanted our parks to be dark, and then they buffered over into, into everything, into our cities. I love stars. I love to see them. But we do live in a city. It's just kind of it's baffling me. I guess I'm.
Well, there's a balance.
Lived too long or
There's a
something.
balance to be had, isn't there? And we have some people on the other side that would say, I want to be safe, and I feel safer if there's some
I do
light.
feel safer if there's light.
Yeah, so.
And I know France was always congratulated for their use of nuclear power and the fact that that nation is so bright. I mean, I've heard that for so long. All of a sudden, we just want everything dark. I know when you go to sleep, you want it dark, but there's curtains for that. And again, I'm not saying that I don't support the desires of these people to have dark, but it just seems like our society is really, really weird. I mean, to want our city that should be a city to be a country or a national park. We're not a national park. So, okay, I'm sorry I did it.
Well, I've thought of the point many times. I don't know. There's a balance to be had for sure. That's one of the reasons we haven't passed that revision, to our ordinance, is because we've been working on, tweaking some of those things. I hope we're getting close, but we'll, there's some issues to think of there.
Just another point of view.
It's a good point of view. Every point of view should be considered. Any other comments or questions? Otherwise, let's move it along.
I just think that there's been an effort to accommodate both sides of this, even the height of the canopies out there and all of these issues, lighting. So if there is a consensus, that was reached, it's comfortable.
Yeah.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion, if you're ready, to move that we approve a zone change amendment to develop a C-store, covered fueling, a car wash, and a 50-foot flagpole, or whatever as it may be changed, I guess, in a PD, planned development commercial, on 1.5 acres at Sun River.
I would second that with the addition of the comments and conditions put out by the staff and planning commission.
Accepted.
Okay, so we have a motion by Betty with the second by Joe. Again, at this point, that the flagpole height would be approved at 50 feet. But if, the applicant wanted to come back and ask for something different, you could. But at this point, we've got that. Any comments on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, starting with Ed this time, say aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. I think that's going to be a good use for that area. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I made a prediction and I was wrong.
Yeah?
I made a prediction there would be a station there, but I thought it'd be a Maverick.
Stay tuned.
Yeah. Right. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah. Okay, John.
All right, next item is 3C, a public hearing to consider an ordinance and zone change from A1 to R18 on approximately 2.02 acres. Location is at approximately 3425 east, 3230 south. So this is the area, the applicant, it's a 2-acre sliver that the applicant is requesting R18. 3000 east is here, Crimson Ridge. This is the aerial of the approximate location. Again, the applicant's requesting, there's already R18 on the south and on the east, and they're requesting to extend this R18 because they want to extend this subdivision. General plan, low density residential, which does allow for an R18 zoning classification. This is the exhibit provided by the applicant. You can see it's this 2-acre sliver. Close up. Planning Commission reviewed it, took public comments, and recommended approval for the request. That concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you. Any questions for John? Okay. Anything from the applicant? No. All right. We will open the public hearing at this time for any who might have come to provide input or ask questions on this item 3C on our agenda. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and come back to you, council. Any questions? We're missing one, so this better be unanimous.
You ready for a motion, Mayor?
Yes, sir. Jimmy's not going to make it. Oh, Joe's back in the room, so.
I make a motion that we approve the ordinance and zone change from A1 to R18 on approximately 2.2 acres. The location is approximately 3425 east, 3230 south in the Little Valley area. for the Elmswood Estates Phase 5.
I have a motion by Ed. Do we have a second? Deep thought.
I missed that part of it, but I certainly didn't miss this at Planning Commission, so I would second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Ed with a second by Joe to change this roughly 2 acres from A1 to R18 at 3425 East and 3230 South in the Little Valley area. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, starting with Jimmy, say aye.
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 No.
Okay, motion carries with 1 nay. How about that? Jimmy, you just about did that to me, huh? Okay.
The next item is 3D, a public hearing to consider an ordinance and zone change from A1 to R18 on 20.71 acres for the Arborist Phase 6 located approximately 3040 East, 2890 South. So this is the area the applicant is requesting. 3000 East is located here. This is Crimson. This is just north of the piece that the council just looked at. This is a 20-acre piece. This is the property. You can see there's R18 to the west and to the south. A20. This is Seg Miller here. So this is as Seg Miller comes up and goes up further, the ag. So this is Bridal
Jay,
Gate,
is
right?
that behind Jay Webb's place?
Yeah. Bridal Gate's right
borders.
here.
Yeah.
Bridal Gates there.
Yeah, this is Bridal Gate. So this is this future trail that's used as a road
Yeah,
that goes up,
got it.
connects.
Yeah.
General plan, low density residential, which does support R18. This is the exhibit provided by the applicant. Again, R18. Planning Commission reviewed it and recommended approval for this zone change. That concludes staff's presentation.
Questions?
John, how does that impact on the roads out there as far as connectivity from this one to the ones we already approved earlier?
Ones we approved earlier, it's quite a bit further west. This is on the east side of 3000 East, and so a lot of those areas have been developed. So if you look at the aerial, a lot of these subdivisions have been developed, and as they develop these subdivisions, they've been stubbing roads, and so that grid will just continue further east if this is approved. And so a lot of this has already been laid out. A lot of the preliminary plats have already been approved, and so it'll just continue through. Looking at the master plan, this is the master plan road system. So we'll just continue to follow the master plan for the roads.
Thank you.
Looking at those roads as well, seeing how they connect. So that road, what is it called that really is the official road that comes from 3000 that lines up kind of with Seg Miller? Kind of runs parallel to it.
You know the name of that road?
It's a number, right?
There's a
Yeah.
number.
But there is a road that's an actual city road
It is.
as opposed to Seg Miller.
And it's just south.
Yeah.
It's right in here. It's in Cornerstone.
Okay.
That'll extend through.
Okay.
So does this area still fall within our right to farm kind of little proposal, or are we kind of out of that? I know we decided this is an ideal area for some of those smaller lots, and that ground isn't really conducive to farming. But
Hasn't seen a lot of water.
But this backs right up to a feedlot, which is, it's not Jay's, but it's Jared Whitworth's, so I think it is. So, I mean, there's going to be
smells.
It's going to stink bad.
Yeah, we do still record, that note will still be on the plat
Yeah.
with the notice.
Okay. Because
The difference is too, those people who would buy there already know that's there.
right, and that happens all the time. But then they
But they
forget
still-
that they knew it was there. And
I mean,
it-
Aaron's point on that is right. It
Right.
happens over and over again.
Right. I mean, it does smell like money to some, but it stinks to others.
Smells like money to Jimmy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
That was my concern. I know we've already talked about the areas where we would see that and areas that we won't, and the developer's been good about trying to stick to that for the most part. So.
Any other questions for John? Okay. The applicant here on this one. Any comments? Any questions for the applicant? Probably not. Okay, we'll open the public hearing for any who might have come to offer input on this item, number 3D on our agenda. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and come back to you, council. Ready for discussion or action? Jimmy's sitting back.
Jimmy won't make a motion. He may second it, but he won't make a
That's
motion.
right.
I would make a motion that we approve the zone change from A1 to R18 on 20.71 acres for the Arbors Phase 6.
Second.
We have a motion by Joe and a second by Ed. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, starting with Joe, say aye.
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 No.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries with one nay on Betty's part. Okay. Thank you.
Just a curiosity, what do we have left out there that hasn't been rezoned? Just a ballpark. I mean, we got to be hitting the end.
We have the stuff between this piece and the toe of the hill.
Which is where the Washington City boundary starts? Or where just the hill?
Not quite. Yeah, there's,
Banded Hills.
really it ends up being the stuff that's along the toe of the hill hasn't been rezoned, but a lot of this has all been rezoned, and some stuff further south.
This bumps into the Atkin property, right? On the east, that A20 or whatever that
It's got to
is.
be getting close.
Isn't that the,
So the little pie-shaped piece along there, along the ridge?
Yeah, so here's the toe, and so this hasn't, and then some of the ridge, and then further south.
Yeah.
Thank you, John.
The growth dilemma.
Yep. Again, on the one hand, like Jimmy says, this was part of the plan, and we were trying to look at where it was conducive for farming and where it wasn't as much. And again, 8,000 square foot lots, it is going to provide a better price point for some people. It's
I think the issue will be tougher will be when it goes north
that's right.
from this over along that Segmill Road and back up into 2450 South, where you've got all those fields, and then you've got
And it's green.
county, and you've got water
Yep.
and underground water.
Yep.
And if you
so
want to
those could be
see
tough issues.
some soup, some brown soup, just go on 2000 South, not too far from Jimmy's property, and see
Where
the
the sewer lines
cat,
run in and get water.
13, 14 feet deep, trying to put in a sewer line and a water line out in front of South Mountain Community Church.
Keep it from floating.
Yeah.
It's,
The water table
ground
is
table's a little high
something
there.
else.
Even in my place, I've dug a little hole, and then I put the backhoe bucket down in there and push it as far as I can, and it just sinks. There's no
Keeps
bottom.
going. Yep. That's right.
So.
So we'll have some interesting.
Should we go back to the agenda then, Mayor? Is that public
let's-
hearing?
Should we go back to 1B?
Okay, yes, 1B, financial statement for May 31st.
What about these poor folks that I happen to know that have been sitting here all night?
Well, this shouldn't take very long,
Okay.
right? You got any questions about it? We're in great shape. The revenues are up, the expenditures are down, and we're going to finish in the black.
And Mayor, I would like to move to approve the financial report for May 31st, 2017.
Second.
You have a motion by Betty and a second by Jimmy. Any discussion?
Just to comment that it's very promising with the economy is improving and looks very good.
Does, again, great management by our city manager and all of our department heads and supervisors. Another very good year, I would say, for the city and the citizens. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Maybe we just take those bid openings very quickly. Item 2A is a recommendation to hire a consultant to do a storm drain study. In your budget, you know, down the old part of town, we put in some major storm drains. Now we're trying to do some laterals to connect up that to improve the drainage on the west side, and 200 south, 300 south, 100 west in that particular area. So you have the money in the budget. This would be hiring a contractor to get the design done, to award the contract. I don't know where those boundaries are, but I'll bet it will be close.
Any questions on this, council? Otherwise, I'm ready for a motion.
Move to contract for design of a storm drain in the vicinity of 100 west and 200 south / 300 south at the price of $49,118.
Second.
Motion by Betty with a second by Ed. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
This next item is a ratification of the awarded bid for some runway improvements. You talked about this before. We'd like to go in there and make some minor improvements during the summer while the load's down and the heat's up. And so we've gone ahead and awarded that so we could get right on the project. This is a ratification of that work. We only had, I believe, two bids. And this is the low bid, a little higher than what we had anticipated. But even though we don't have the money in the current budget, we were recommending we take the money out of the sale of property at the old airport to pay the cost of this improvement.
And that would go, is that coming from the DXATC purchase? Is
Yes, it's in the Economic Development Fund right now.
Very good. Council approved that offline, but we wanted to ratify that approval. It's in the city manager's prerogative to do this, but we wanted to cover our bases as required. So any comments, discussion on this? Otherwise, I'd accept a motion.
Just when's the completion date on it?
I can't remember. Is it, they're going to do it in phases after the airport closes down, so it'll be done in the evening. And
Yeah, they're going to take 1 week to do it, and they're just working on the schedule with the contractor to get him in there. So it'll be done this month. Just have to determine.
It'll take some of the rough edges off the runway.
So was there any excavation that's required?
Yes, they excavate the patch down and then they replace it. It's kind of a milling, 5 inches.
Okay.
They have to do whatever they do that night, they do, and then they repair it so it can
Right.
be open the next day.
Awesome. I'd be happy to move that we award a contract to Western Rock to complete the airport runway patches project at a cost of $213,433.
Okay, we have a motion by Betty and a second by Joe. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Next item is a contract to do construction testing for the Bloomington project that's underway. If you haven't been out there, they're working on that. We'd like to hire Landmark Testing to do make sure that it's put in correctly and the materials are what they were supposed to be.
Very important part of it. Any questions on this, council?
Motion to approve the contract with Landmark Testing for $32,345.
Second.
Motion by Jimmy, second by Betty. Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
I will ask you to delay the item 5A until after the other items are taken care of. Is that all right?
Perfect.
So we'll go to item 6A. This is a consent for local approval for a Class A beer license for the new Smiths located at 565 South. The application has been reviewed and it meets our requirements.
Looks like they're getting very close out there. I was in their parking lot today. So any questions on this, council?
Is the church pretty close? Did they meet that requirement?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's so big, I guess they do.
Yeah.
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 Which side of the building?
Yeah. Any other questions? Good question, Jimmy. Ready for a motion then.
Motion to approve the Class A beer license. for Smith's Marketplace.
Second.
Motion by Jimmy with the second by Betty. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Item 6B is a request to expand the George Fest event to the area south of the roundabout and to close the roundabout and part of Tabernacle and South Main Street. So I'm going to let the applicant, I saw her here, Melinda, if you want to come up and present your proposal. I'm sure it's safe to say that the staff has some concerns about costs and also closing down Main Street with the businesses that's located on the west side or east side of that, but I'll let them make their presentation there.
Hi, thanks for having us back. The last couple of months have been a concern to us. Stephen is the manager of Main Street. We have, with so many teens turning out for the dance party every month, we are having a spillover into the roundabout. And I had taken some pictures just last event, but the teens just tend to kind of stand around in the roundabout. We'll ask them to leave, they'll clear out for a few minutes, and then they go back. And so obviously that's a safety concern with the roundabout staying open. With some conversations with the Children's Museum, they're interested in having that demographic down toward their area. They feel like they can attract teens, kids, and their parents to come inside. They're staying open during the event, not having the traffic they would like to see. So we felt like moving the dance party in that direction created a natural solution for them and then also for us. We've tried having the dance party over by Capoletti's, but they didn't like the noise in the crowd. So we're just trying to create a little more space. The dance party's grown in popularity more than any other venue in the event, and so we just need a little more room to accommodate the teenagers that want to come and be part of that.
Let me just start some discussion here, Council. I think you've all been to the event several times or more, and they have tried this in a couple different locations. And I do think they're absolutely correct. We've had some concerns about, teens and especially teens spilling into the roundabout. The question I have that I'd like to have some discussion on here, and as well with you, Stephen and Melinda, as we look at kind of the two primary purposes for this event, I saw them as being, personally, this is just me, you correct me if I'm wrong, as being obviously an event for people to gather and have fun, And second, I would say, and these are, I wouldn't put one above the other, but to encourage people to, go to the businesses downtown and the venues downtown. So as we consider that and how that's working for our different businesses and so forth, and the venues, you mentioned the Children's Museum, and I think Betty, you're on that board, aren't you? So she can maybe speak to that somewhat as well. And then the Tabernacle, which is kind of out of our minds right now because it's, been closed down for a long time and remodeling. But I'm thinking, and I really am, I'm just thinking here, if which way to go, to go south on Main Street and close that off at probably a cost of about $1,000, as I recall. Does that sound about right, Gary? How much? $650. Okay, that's right. That's right. So, we do need to consider that. Who would be paying that? Whether it's us or again, the event is already probably fairly strapped. Then there's the issue of where do people park for this event as well as other events that might be happening. That's the thing I've been thinking about, Melinda and Stephen, is when the Tabernacle's open again, great if they have an event in there, right? All one big happy family, but people will need to be parking and crossing the street, and I just wonder how's that all going to work. And closing the roundabouts, I have to admit it's been kind of nice to have open so that, you know, you'd have a way to get through or go to Capoletti's or, you know, whatever else you might be going to. So I don't know, I've kind of wondered, you know, we love the event and love having it big, and it's gotten bigger, but my question is it possible to go further west on Tabernacle rather than further south on Main Street? And even considering, and I don't want to cause problems and have you have like two events in a sense, but Town Square, Gary and I were talking about Town Square or the west parking lot, you know. What other options might there be other than increasing costs and increasing closures of roads? And I know there's the issue the further west we go on Tabernacle of the, you know, Jazz and Beer Garden, but I think your staff is doing a great job of, you know, checking IDs and so forth, and that's pretty well closed off at Green Gate. So I guess I'm just trying to say, if we moved it down to the west a little bit more, even if it's, you know, whether it's just a little bit, would that help? Would that make it easier to keep people out of the roundabout enough?
Well, the school district building, is that what you're talking about? The school district office building, that area?
Well, farther that way, farther west.
So it's
Still,
always closed.
Right.
During the event.
Right.
Which is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, Betty, what are your thoughts about getting traffic toward the Children's Museum? Do you feel like that's... The one thing about the dance party is it doesn't create any income for the event, so it doesn't help us pay expenses. It costs.
Yeah.
So if we're going to accommodate the dance party, we need it to be easy for everyone. So if it's not a super big deal to the Children's Museum to capture that demographic, we could look at moving it down West Tabernacle.
Just a little farther. I mean, you know, I'm trying to make it easy as well.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to not increase the costs because, frankly, that's our challenge. I mean, we just can't. We're having a hard time doing what we're doing with not just your event, with lots of events.
Everything. Well, the original expansion plan for the event, if you remember, went north up to North Main,
right?
Up near Urban Renewal. Yeah. So when we were creating our conversation about where to put the dance party, we felt like moving it south was more cost effective and less dangerous. Did you have a comment?
Well, the one issue I see with moving the dance party further down Tabernacle is then we have the crossover of the DJ music with the Jazz Garden music.
And I wondered about that.
Yeah, we have the DJ right at that prime spot. We've gone back as far as we can, and fortunately, the Judd's building actually blocks that music into the Jazz Garden. But if we move it any farther back, then that music, it'll just spill over to each other.
Let me ask you a dumb question. What if in a sense, the DJ and his speakers stayed exactly where they were, but faced the other direction? In other words, you had the kids dancing more to the west, and maybe that doesn't solve the sound problem, but...
Yeah, I don't think that'll solve the sound problem, because we're having the speakers face away from the Jazz.
It seemed to me to move into Town Square makes the most sense to me, and I'm baffled by the Children's Museum wanting teenagers in there. It's just not age appropriate. They'd have to come up with some really unique things to...
I don't think they do want the teenagers. What they see is the kids and their parents dancing in the street with the teenagers, feeling like that's something that they could do. I don't know that I'm super interested in continuing the dance party if it's not going to be within the realm of what our volunteers can manage, if it's right within our reach, that makes sense. Otherwise, I don't know that it's really worth continuing.
Well, what I'm just wondering is...
That's actually a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the only thing is that, as you know, as we public perception is we shut down another dance.
Right.
And there's already some of that.
That's a PR problem.
Yeah, and so one of the things I'm wondering is before And I think, you know, you were very sensitive to public safety, and I think wise to say, let's have a timeout. They're not having this tomorrow. And then they took some heat. Can I say that when it's 110 outside? They took some heat for it, and we probably will a little bit too. It was Melinda and Stephen being sensitive, careful. I'm just wondering if before we make a huge move either direction, if we try a couple things, if we tweak a couple things, and you know, maybe the speakers facing the other way are too much of a problem, but maybe you could even move them just a tad further east and not affect the Jazz Garden sound. I don't know. If you had the dancing further west. You see what I'm saying? I'm just trying to say, can we make something work without just saying no, or without saying no to expanding down Main Street permanently? But right now, it just I don't know. It feels like we have a good thing. You have a good thing going, and we don't want to, you know, say no. But on the other hand, we also want to keep things good for Capoletti's and whatever else might happen on Tabernacle and Judd's and Green Gate, which I think, you know, again, at the time we started this originally, we didn't have Green Gate as part of the equation. Now we do.
Yeah,
and I think it's
nice.
been a great solution.
What about, and I don't go to the dance, okay? But what if the band for the dance, the music for the dance, was down where that, at the end of 100 West, where it goes into the gazebo there? Would that sound conflict that far apart?
It's
It'd
too
be a half
close
a block
to the
at
Jazz
least.
Garden.
Huh?
It is too close.
Probably closer, because where the Jazz Garden music is in their little gazebo right behind, I don't know which house that is.
The green, yeah.
The one thing we
almost
could
There in
do,
Green Gate?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
What about having the music that's on Main Street right there be the same music for the dance? And have the dance be up on the parking plaza, on the top of the parking plaza.
I was thinking that. But
So
then
the kids
need
could
the
go up,
parking.
they'd be isolated. I mean, not isolated, but they'd have their own
I think
venue.
the teens would love to have it on top of the
Yeah, but-
parking plaza.
See, that would be fun, and then you wouldn't have to have two bands, you just have one.
We've had dances there before, but the question becomes then, does that affect your parking for the whole event?
Oh, not on the top. I bet there's hardly anybody parking
I
out
tell
there.
people all the time to park in the parking plaza because it is not utilized during First
Absolutely.
Friday.
That's where I park, actually.
Yeah,
I listen
it's-
to Melinda.
It's underutilized during the event.
Have you gotten any input from the police department concerning traffic issues there and just basic
Well,
enforcement?
we've had input from them. They're concerned just as Melinda is with, you know.
I haven't heard from them
Roundabout.
personally. This is just my own observation, and I know the cost of the event insurance policy. If we were to have a claim, the event would not be able to continue. So that's what my personal vested interest is.
So I guess what I'm wondering is, would we all be open to trying a couple of these things, seeing what works best?
So the one thing, as we've been talking, that seems like it's the most viable to me, well, I guess there are two. The dance party on the top floor of the parking terrace, that keeps it close to the perimeters of the event, and it feels like it's manageable, and we can all be within the same 1 to 2 block radius. The other is to put the dance party down in front of the school district building with the speakers facing to is that the west?
Yeah.
So they're facing away from the Jazz Garden, and it would put it farther down the street.
And it's a ways down,
Mhm.
but I would think that's closer to where your people would congregate.
We would end up closing an extra part of that street, but it seems like that's just
It's less
not
of a
very
problem.
busy.
That's the thing, is we're thinking of the bank, especially when you got to close early to
And the
set up.
Tabernacle traffic.
And yeah.
But I think everything in that general block area closes at 5.
Yep. I think it's less of a problem personally.
You're moving it a little closer to residential area, though.
You are a little, but if you also, the other thing, I can't remember who I was talking to about this, but if you moved it to even our parking lot in the west side of Town Square, you're also a little close to some residential, and
Do you have a favorite between the two?
some of them, another fire and they'll be gone real
Yeah.
quick. Bad timing. Okay. Well,
So what about the top of the parking garage?
Yeah, let's explore that. I think that would be the most popular.
They could look down and see the party. I think it sounds
It'd
fun.
be more manageable as far as, you know.
it's kind of contained, and
Jimmy, you said that we have done dances there before.
Yeah, high school dances.
we have.
Several.
Yeah. Youth City Council did a dance there.
Well, and we have some ownership of that, and as you know, you've got, I believe, did you get that agreement for the inclement weather
Inclement weather, yes.
thing? And so I think if we talk to Steve Jennings, we could probably.
We have legally the right to use all the parking
After
after
hours.
6 o'clock, I believe.
Awesome.
What time do you generally
But
start
The problem is getting the park, if somebody's parked up there,
The
Getting
dance
them out.
party
Clear the-
starts at 6. The kids really don't start showing up until 7.
And like, for example, tomorrow night, because of the heat, they're starting at 8, right?
Yeah.
Maybe if you do the parking garage, you push that back to the 7 at least. That gives that building time to empty out.
Oh, right. That makes sense.
you would have some issues with, you'd have to make sure they had porta potties and access. There's only one bathroom, I think. They have to go through into the building to get to it.
Heck, you don't want them to wait an hour and a half like we did at the fireworks.
We do have event porta potties that we've actually moved them to Tabernacle Street with the move of the Jazz Garden, so they are there fairly close.
Would we need to?
You may want to have some up on top,
Upstairs.
so they don't have to go all the way down and
that's
back
what I
up.
think.
Otherwise, they're going to be stopping from the top to the bottom, not necessarily using the
Yeah.
parties.
The guys will never make it.
The
They
girls.
should, but they just won't
So
even
you're
try.
talking about actually locating them on the top level where the dance is. Okay, I didn't even think of that as an
Yeah.
option, but
Could.
yeah, why not?
So, can we help with that, Gary?
I think we just need to have a meeting with the managers of that, so
Good vibrations.
it could have been better, worse, could have been worse. Could have
Yeah,
been the house
could,
of rising.
for sure.
Stephen, he's on the street on Main Street, so his opinion is super important. He just said that he thinks that's the option we ought to try first.
Let's try it.
We just need to get with Steve. Maybe they could meet with Steve and get his initial reaction. We could send Mark maybe or somebody to, as kind of a representative of the downtown
Could
our
we-
group or something.
Could we do that?
Mark and I.
Will you get with Mark
mhm.
and then the three of you set up a meeting with Steve Jennings?
Yes.
Let's try
Absolutely.
that, and then
So I have to apologize. I don't know Steve.
Steve Jennings is the
Jennings.
manager
Steve
of
Jennings,
the
okay.
First South Plaza.
Mark does, and Mark can reach out to him.
Plaza.
Okay. All right. I worked with another gentleman on the other agreement.
It may be somebody that works for Steve. Steve's, I
Yeah.
think, the general managing partner or something. Now his father's gone.
I think that feels reasonable and definitely worth exploring. Oh, was it?
You would see the stars.
Yeah. No, I think that sounds really fun. I think it would be popular.
Well, let's try it. We'll get with Mark and ask him to quickly get with you, because I think we have good a good leverage here. As Gary said, really, it's ours to utilize
Okay.
after hours. So the only thing would be, yeah.
Do we have to deny the request to go down Main Street, or are we just trying another avenue right now?
I
Let's
don't know,
just
Gary.
just
Can we
not
table
vote
it?
on it. Table it.
Okay.
I'll do that.
I'd accept a motion to table this request
So moved.
for at least 2 weeks. Should we do that?
Yeah.
Okay, next meeting. Okay, we have a motion by Betty with a second by Jimmy. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, I'll have Mark get with you.
Okay. We sure appreciate your input and thank you for your support.
We're just, I hope you understand the spirit it's offered. Just, we want it to be successful like you do, and
Absolutely.
safe, and have everybody be as happy as possible. I think they will. We've had several
Sounds
high
fun.
school dances. The Youth City Council has sponsored a couple up there, and it's been fun.
Betty, thanks for the idea.
Thank you.
Item 6C is the consider approval of an agreement to use the old airport runway for a lease to Dixie State University for they're trying to invent a little program, and they think that this would be an optimal place for testing of those wind turbines that would be part of this invention that they're working with the individual with. So my only concern, I think I mentioned in the thing, is how long the lease would be and whether we could cancel if we had with a notice. So that in case we end up doing something and they go longer than what they anticipate wanting to go, we probably need to maintain that flexibility. But other than that, it seems like an interesting collaboration with the university. See what will work.
What's the height of the turbines?
I haven't seen the proposal, so.
And they're not that tall. It actually just is a perfect location because of the wind up there to do it. And it's really actually not a large piece of property that they're going to put it on.
50 by 50.
So, yeah, just one.
There will not be a building,
Oh.
just an enclosure or something?
Right, uh-huh.
Wayne Provost, if you haven't met him, he's like a patent guru. And so he's really trying to help the university and their students through the process.
Entrepreneurially, yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool. This guy's obtained many patents, and so now he's working on some basis for the university to help them and their students do it. So seemed like a good thing, as long as, like you said, Sean and Gary, I think we've got an out if we need it.
Absolutely, because we know that property could
change.
Could change.
So,
yeah.
so where is it in relation to the airport
terminal? The
terminal?
old
That
one?
was the word I was trying to, no, not the old one.
It's south.
I'm the
It's on
only
the
one that
south.
knows about
Yeah.
that. Just the
Clear
old
down the south.
I think it's
Old
closer to the old one, right? Yeah.
Probably,
FedEx down that area.
probably no one will know it's even there.
No.
Well, the Vandals will, but the
And just to confirm, the city can cancel the agreement if there's.
I think we haven't noticed
Sales.
30 days. Is it 30 days or?
I think so, yes. We kept it very short, and they understand that.
Any other questions? I'm looking through it as well. They can't assign it or sublet it. They're insuring it.
Are you ready for a motion?
Ready if you are.
I make a motion that we approve the agreement with Dixie State University for the use of the property at the old airport that was discussed and indicated for an invention with wind turbines.
Second.
Motion by Ed with a second by Betty. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Oh, okay, sorry. Based on the numbers that are here left, Mayor, and the items of business that they have, I think we want to hear from Dan Polson first. Height
Dan.
variance. John, you want to take us through?
I've called you that
height
before,
variance?
but not on purpose. I know, and I've probably done it.
Maybe we'll take it out of turn. And I know that Lauren's been here forever too, but he's only one. There's two back there, so if we want to do that, we could go to the height variance. Lauren came half an hour early besides that, so he's really better.
So we're going to 6E.
So this is a request to construct a detached RV residential garage. The height will exceed the allowable height of 15 feet.
Ready for a motion. Just kidding.
The applicant is requesting 17 feet 6 inches, so it's 2.5 feet above what the ordinance allows. This is the location, Horseman's Park. This is Little Valley Elementary. It'll be located back in this corner. It's already 12.5. They're going to be 6 feet away from the main house, 2 feet on the side, which does meet code. They will have to enter into the indemnification agreement that for encroaching into the utility easements.
And this is too.
No, there's not. And they'll go through the JUC process during the permit.
And this is the house. How many horses and cows inside? 12.5, they can have them right in them.
Yeah, this
They
is
can
for
have one
horses and
large
cows,
house.
not
Cows,
garages. Didn't we just talk about this earlier?
Yes, we did.
So this is the exterior. Exterior, it'll match the house, same materials, same colors. Again, they're requesting 17 foot 6 inches, 2.5 feet above what the ordinance allows. And Planning Commission reviewed it and recommended approval for the conditional use permit. This is a conditional use permit. There are the findings A through K, and I'll just review them quickly. Excuse me: noise, dust, odors, aesthetics, safety, traffic, height, hours of operation, saturation and spacing, maintain character and purpose of zone, and public health. That concludes staff's presentation.
Very good. Thank you, John. Any questions? All right. Ready for motion if you are.
I would make a motion that we approve the conditional use permit for an accessory structure to exceed 15 feet in height.
Second.
Follow those findings of the staff.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Joe and a second by Ed. Any discussion on the motion, Jimmy? Jimmy wanted to vote to or make a motion to
I was going to say they might have animals in their backyard anyways. They back up to Horseman's Park, but they don't. They back to a junkyard and to a man cave.
And they're happy about it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Thanks for waiting.
All right, report from the Planning Commission meeting. Let's take the amendment to the subdivision plat out in Green Valley. The rest of you are paid to be here.
All right, Wes.
I'd like to confuse these guys and see if they like to get out of order.
What is this?
This is 6D, right?
6D.
6D.
Yeah, this is just a plat,
Yeah,
a
so
little
it's this
minor
one,
amendment
right?
to the plat out in Green Valley.
So wait a minute. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a request to consider an amended residential subdivision final plat called Dolce Vista at Sunbrook Phase 1 amended. Representative is Lauren Nielsen, Realtor.
it's item 4.
Yep. Item 4 in your planning commission report. Property is located at the southwest corner intersection of Alba Drive and Alienta Drive. So basically, I don't know what this is. Basically, and I always have a hard time finding this again on here. It's right here, isn't it? Which one is it? Right there? Yeah, there you go. Man, I can never see this. So basically, this lot right here, there's a note on the final plat that says access must be from this road here. They're proposing a home with access here, which is where all of these access. I'm not totally sure. I think the reason it was put on there was because they felt like this
Too
lot
close
wouldn't
to the
have enough
intersection.
distance and too close to the intersection. However, we've looked at it. It meets the ordinance as far as distance away, so it should be okay to amend that note and allow, basically just delete the note and allow access from either road depending on how they build it, and just meet the ordinance as required.
Sounds good. Questions, council? Ready for a motion?
Motion to approve the amended final plat subdivision for Dulce Vista at Sunbrook Phase 1 amended.
Second.
Motion by Jimmy. I would say Dolce. But
What? They say it a little different.
Dulce.
Dulce.
Dolce.
Dulce Vista.
Us finer Portuguese people say dulce, right?
Si.
Yes.
My Portuguese friend.
Portuguese is very good.
In Italian, you would say Dolce. You say
Dulce.
You say let's take a vote. So we had a motion by Jimmy, was it? And second by Betty. Any further edifying discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Back to you guys, planning to report. In order, don't deviate.
Planning Commission report from June 27th, first item, public hearings to be advertised for July 20th. There's two.
First one, consider a zone change from R2 to PDC for the Green Door Boutique and the adjacent zoning to the west with a zone change from R2 to C3 on approximately 0.28 acres. Applicant is Mrs. Melanie Hart and Mr. Russ Moody. Second item is consider a zone change amendment to Boulder Creek Crossing Commercial subdivision to develop a building on Lot 9 located approximately 1382 South River Road. That's also in a PDC zone, and the applicant is First Colony Mortgage. Those are the two items.
I would move that we advertise the dates for the public hearings for July 20th for items 1A and 1B, subject to, have we worked out the missing property there on the B?
Property's missing?
Yeah, well, the property's there, but nobody owns it.
Second.
Motion by Joe.
Yeah.
It's resolved.
You got it resolved? Thank you.
Motion by Joe with a second by Betty. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Now, that's on the north end of that commercial development, right up by the Virgin River, just south of the other commercial properties there. Yeah. You're right.
Okay, item 3A from the Planning Commission report is request to consider approval of a 20-lot residential subdivision final plat called the Villas at Sun River, St. George, Phase 3. Representative is Rosenberg Associates. Property is located on the south side of Sun River Parkway and between Arrowhead Canyon Drive and I-15. Zone is PDR. All aspects of this final plat were reviewed by staff, and it meets the conditions of the preliminary plat. Well, I guess I can just go back. Just so you're aware, Sun River Parkway, Arrowhead Canyon. So this is part of that Villas development. It's actually kind of on the easterly side of that amenity area. So phase one will have to record before so they can get access to their development.
And West, this particular item will include how many short-term rentals are in this particular one, about 8 or something like that?
Well, it's not till you get 100 is the short-term rentals come into play, and then I think they said it's like 50%, wasn't it?
50. So this spot will include
So
some.
this could be, some of them could be located in here. It's just 50% throughout there. Right. Right. They'll kind of control that.
Move to approve the final plat for the Villas at Sun River, St. George, Phase 3.
Second.
Motion by Betty with a second by Ed. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, item 3B is a request to consider approval of a 24-lot residential subdivision final plat called Desert Crest Phase 5. Representative is Development Solutions. Property is located at the intersection of Arcturus Drive and Castro Lane in the Desert Canyons development. Zone is PDR. All aspects of this final plat were reviewed by staff and meets the conditions of the preliminary plat. If you look here on your vicinity map, here is Desert Canyons Parkway, Sun River Parkway. So it's north of Desert Canyons Parkway and just south of Sun River, kind of boxed in there. It's kind of that last little area. It'd be subject to that 15% open space being dedicated as part of the plat.
Questions, council?
Move to approve the final plat for Desert Crest Phase 5.
Motion by Betty, second by Joe. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, item 5 from the Planning Commission report is request to approve a preliminary plat for a 16-lot residential subdivision called Meadow Valley Farms Phase 11. Site is located approximately 3770 South Bentley Road. Property is 25.1 acres. Number of lots, 16, density is 0.64 dwelling units an acre. Zone is A1 and RE20. General plan is LDR. Applicant is Development Solutions. And so basically this is south of the one zone change you looked at today. So here's Jeff Barlow's house, property right here. Yeah, right there. Here's Bentley Road right here. And then that's that new road, that 66 that we discussed earlier.
Along the wash?
Yeah, along the wash. And these are the RE20 lots. We talked about doing a staff. So they've had these 2 lots that will be just open space lots because they fall within that. And they've proposed to put staffs back for access to each lot, so that if the owner does sell off that parcel to somebody who wants to just use it as open space, they do have access to those
Where's that
lots.
access come through? Just through those lots, like a flag lot?
Yeah, they're flag lots, basically.
Okay.
We talked about doing it down the middle. They proposed to do it on that side, on the south side of that lot and on the north side of that lot. There is this.
Nobody else would be able to use it. They're talking about public getting into there, or are they just
No,
saying
no,
it's-
it would be owned. You know,
So
their
they would-
proposal was to sell it to these
Right.
lots. Our concern was sometimes over time, people like sell these things off and they don't have access. So we just felt like they ought to have an access to that.
Well, why are they going to sell it off? What are they going to, if you sell it off, then somebody else is going to try to build on it or use
You
it.
can't build on it because it's an open space. So really all you could do is
You can
just,
change the zone.
pardon?
You could change the zone, couldn't you?
Yeah, but you could.
Why
change-
can't it be tied to the lot? What's the issue?
We can figure out a way to tie it to the lot because they were two separate parcels.
They can't combine?
No, because the reason they didn't want to combine them is because if they combined it, made it one lot, then they had to pay for flood insurance. That was the whole deal here.
That's a big deal.
Jeez. What's
Right.
flood insurance? Couple $100?
They said, Jay, I was talking to Jay, he says it's actually about $3,000 a year now on property like that.
Well, it depends. Yeah, it depends. On
Yeah.
where
They might want it anyways there.
you-
So the zoning really should
Have them come
control.
look at the photo on the mayor's office wall.
Yeah, that's right. We haven't seen one. This is that, there is a master plan trail right through here. This is an existing, that's that airport sewer line. So the trail will basically follow that sewer line right through there. They do have this, and most of these roads, as you know, out here are built like with their rural cross-section, no curb and gutter, no sidewalk. I talked to them, and they really would like to put curb and gutter and sidewalk on these roads here.
So technically you couldn't build back there, but that could be a different owner who maybe wanted to use it to
Yeah.
put a pasture on or something.
Right, you could put some animals back
Outbuilding.
there. Right.
So is
I
that,
can see those guys that buy the front lots ultimately trying to buy that like they have out in Bloomington along Sugar Leo.
Well, so Quality's proposal is to sell these together as separate
Yeah,
lots.
yeah.
It's just every once in a while we run into it where somebody says, "Nah, I don't want that," and sells it off to somebody else. And so it was just a way to provide access to that parcel.
so do we have a problem if they sell it off? As long as they
you
can't
have a-
build
Yeah,
on it.
you have a potential problem because then what happens if they sell it to somebody, they put a use in there that's in the open space zone? You can do other things in an open space zone. You can mine gravel. You can
build
do other things in that zone. They ought to be tied to the property somehow. And if they're going to spend that much money, in my opinion, for a lot that size, what's $3,000 for flood insurance? I don't know, but Cameron?
Cameron's got to figure it out.
Just a quick comment. The way I understand it, if I don't understand it right, and correct me, but as long as they get an elevation certificate on the structure, and that structure's out of the 100-year floodplain, they can reduce it down to what's equivalent to the lower tier, like a 500-year flood insurance, and it's only maybe a few $100 a year or several $100 a year.
Mine's
It's not-
$400 a year.
Yeah, it's that one.
I'm technically not in the floodplain, but I'm adjacent.
This is a
to it.
preliminary plat. I would suggest that we, the layout is good. The other issue is they want to have the city assume they want to donate that property right there to the city because they don't want to pay the costs of the improvements on the roadway. And so they want us to take the property and build a trailhead there. And then we, in exchange for that great donation, then we have to pay the cost of the improvements. I'm not interested in doing that unless that's the only place in the entire area out there we can put a trailhead in. Otherwise, we're paying whatever the cost per square foot for curb and gutter and sidewalk and frontage on that 60-foot road. So I think I told Wes, he just mentioned that to me, the Leisure Service Department thought that would be a great idea, but I don't think they have any money to pay for it. So we need to address that issue and this issue. And so I would suggest you go ahead and approve the plat if you're inclined as a preliminary plat, and then we'll resolve those issues when they come back for a final plat.
Okay, good suggestion. Sean?
And I will say with preliminary plats now, and this just came up at a meeting that we were having in Salt Lake with some of the property rights Coalition, and that is the debate on whether what vesting occurs at the preliminary plat stage. I think we need to be a little more careful now about how we pass things along. So I think we do what Gary says, subject to the resolution of those two issues before it comes to the satisfaction of the city, before it comes
Okay.
to the
Yeah.
city council.
That, or you could table it. It's up to you. And you
And-
could table it, and that's not a problem. I mean, that's there. They've got to solve that issue before they bring it back any further. But it gets them past one meeting, I guess.
And that would be the preference when we have issues such
Well,
as
let's
this.
just table it.
Well,
There's no
it's gonna
hurry.
go through the planning commission again anyway. Have it corrected by then.
Well,
But
that's
he's
the
talking
question.
about, he's
That's
saying
come-
as vesting occurs, if vesting occurs at preliminary plat versus final plat, then my concern is they've got a lot. They're showing 2 parcels of property that now has some rights if those vesting rights go at the time of preliminary plat approval. The safest thing to do, since there's nobody here from them to talk about it, is to table it for 2 weeks. That's not going to make any difference, I don't think, from their process to wait 2 weeks to resolve those 2 issues. What are they going to do if we say no on the land?
I think the only reason
I mean,
they-
on the parcel they want to give to us.
Right, right. They said if the city does not want it, they said they would just they'd sell it as part of Lot 12.
Then the improvements would have to be done.
Right, and they understand that. They
Let
understand
them do
that.
it.
Let's get it right. I'll make a motion to table item 5.
We can do that. I don't think they're in any big.
We have a motion by Jimmy and a second by Joe to table this item for 2 weeks. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
And Mayor, I'd just like to clarify, for the record, that our position still in St. George is that you do not vest at preliminary plat, but that issue has come up, and I think we need to be very careful. It's one of those issues where sometimes when the developers push back, it affects our ability to help them move things along as we
right. Good
go
point.
through this process. So it actually works against them, but
Who's
unfortunately.
pushing this?
That's some members of the Property Rights
If
Coalition.
there's any vesting given at the preliminary plat state, then you're going to have a grinding halt
Yep.
to the approval process. Because in the past, we've been very willing, like Sean has said, willing to work with people to get through that process, the notice requirements and everything else, and then we work it out at the end. But that won't happen anymore. They'll be dead on arrival until they meet the ordinance specifically.
Wow, that's crazy.
Very good.
Okay, item 7 from the Planning Commission report is request to approve an amended preliminary plat for a 65-lot residential subdivision called Cornerstone Phase 5. Site is located at 3210 East Segmiller Drive. Number of lots is, in this portion, there's 15. Density is 2.1. Zone is R110. So basically, when this was all approved as one preliminary plat, they did not build this area right through here. But they built the rest of it and platted it. They've held off on this. So Development Solutions has actually picked this piece up to finish it. The reason they didn't finish it was this is the property line between Cornerstone and J. Webb. They could never work out a deal to put 5 feet of the road onto his property to kind of split the property line. They've come in and decided that's okay. They'll deal with that. So they pushed 5 feet onto themselves so they can build the road that's necessary to get this approved. And so these 4 lots here now fall below the 10,000 square feet, and so they would do lot size averaging. So basically, you'll have a little kink in the road here to turn it to get it fully onto their property. Their other request is, this is Segmiller Drive right through here. Their request is to dedicate that hatched area to the city, which is where you would have the equestrian trail and the multi-use trail that comes through here that follows those 2 pipelines that extend through here. They are proposing also to dedicate that little portion and that little portion along with it, as they don't have any place else to put it within a
So
lot.
who's paying the cost of the improvements on that road?
That's a good question. We probably ought to work
Yes.
that out with them. I didn't think about that. That's right.
Well, I mean, it's great for them to donate it, but we're not going to pay the.
Right.
That's
The
the equivalent of
cost
2
right
lots
there.
right there. Well,
Right.
down below there too, right there. Isn't that a road?
Yeah, it is. Yes, it is. Wow. So
I
when
think
this-
if you do that, and you want to accept the preliminary plat based on what Sean's suggesting is we should accept it, but with the understanding that the city's not going to be responsible if they dedicate that property to the city for any costs of improvements on the roadways.
For those two segments.
Those two sections.
So when this portion came in from here over, the city did pay for the cost of the roadway improvements that they were responsible for because they were dedicating that trail and so forth. We did do it at that time.
What
But
are
there were
those
no
going
lot-
down
there were
under
no
the
lots
power
there,
line and
so-
all the rest of that, right?
What are those donated parcels going to be good for?
Nothing.
So why do we even want them?
Well, I guess only because we can then control what goes in. I guess it depends on what they want to put in there for landscaping or whatever else. If we've got the maintenance of all that, we need to think through those issues.
Why do we want to maintain it?
I guess nobody else fronts it, so what are they going to do with it?
Well, so basically, that's where that trail and that equestrian trail go through, is right through here.
I think if you remember,
Why not just include it with that lot?
Well, you
lot?
could. So I think that's why we didn't do it before, is because you had no lots. And so here you could include that portion with that
Right.
lot and that portion with that lot.
You don't want to on that side because you got a road in there, but on that where that one lot fronts that, you might could do that.
This one's a little more difficult because they are picking up that drainage there to take it into that existing storm drain line off of 3210 East.
You know, it's a lot like having an HOA, but then it never gets taken care of. You know, 5 years from now, and they don't have any money, they don't take care of it. I'd rather see it be on the property.
Yeah, otherwise we're going to be maintaining it. It's just one more piece that
They're
we
not
got to
proposing
maintain.
an HOA there, and so that's right. It's going to be either us or them. But this is a continuation of that trail that goes underneath the power line.
Right, right. So this
You remember that we're building that road there. It goes all the way down to Little Valley Road.
Horseman?
Yeah.
Horseman.
So eventually this trail will go all the way along Seg Miller Drive, all the way down to Little Valley Road.
See, I'm confused. That Horseman or Seg Miller is the one that goes past just a street down from our Seg Miller Park. Then,
Yeah.
the one by
South.
Spilker.
Spilker.
Right. It goes right by the
Yeah, and it comes. Then you come right there and it turns.
Yeah.
Right. So this is where you have that existing irrigation line that's like a 54-inch, and the storm drain's like a 66-inch.
So that's one reason we wouldn't want to have it inside the lot. If that's
the
encroaching on that, that's a little bit of a challenge.
That's the challenge you face on this one.
Well, I think we need to do some work on this. I think that we can work that one out if we.
Right now, you could say combine them with the lots, and then in between now and then, if they come up with something different,
Okay.
then you can consider it.
That's good.
Okay, so let's see. This motion ought to look like we'd be approving the preliminary plat subject to combining
This portion right here with that lot, and that portion there with that lot.
that portion of the, what do you call it?
Unless there's some reason we're missing.
Phase 5.
Phase 5? Okay.
And I think that we'll need to do some research on that, because if we've got those where they're connecting storm drains, where they're encroaching on that lot, the lot owner's not going to want to maintain that if it's something we've got to maintain because of the easements that are there. So we can do that between now and the time final plat comes back.
Someone willing to make a motion to that effect?
Second.
Okay. We have a motion by Joe and a second by Betty. Any discussion on the motion? Christina, you might need Sean to help you make sure that wording comes through. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Either way, the intent was to have the developer pay for the roadway improvements.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, we're all the way back to resolutions.
Okay. 5A.
5A. Cameron, maybe you can kind of give us a short summary of what the natural hazard mitigation plan is. Over the past years, we have approved, and we currently have on the record, a natural hazard mitigation plan, which is part of FEMA requirements and other federal agencies' requirements in order to go after federal grants and be NRCS and all the rest of that. We have to have this plan. We submit it to the 5-County Association of Governments. So what has changed from the last one?
They 5 counties only said there was just a few minor changes in that FEMA required for to comply with it. They didn't provide us with those changes. I read through a lot of it. not all of it. There's 330-something pages of it, but it's down from 440 the last time. So the other mitigation plan was from 2011 to 2016, so this is just an update to it. But it goes through all the natural hazards, the landslides, the soils. I thought it was most interesting about the earthquakes because it's a map of all Washington County's faults.
Oh.
I was just joking.
Yeah.
All of our faults. Yeah.
Washington County, not St. George City.
Oh, very good. That's
He
right.
was clever.
But I read through it, didn't see any issues with it. I mean, it read through a little bit clearer. It was a little more user-friendly than the old one.
Questions, council? Ready for a motion then. This is a resolution.
We move to approve a resolution adopting the 5-county multi-jurisdictional natural hazard mitigation plan 2017 to 2021.
Second.
I have a motion by Betty with a second by Jimmy. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, I'm taking a gamble here. All in favor, starting with Ed, say aye.
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 Thank you.
Passes unanimously.
Then we're down to item F. Consider approval of sale of surplus city property. This is, if you go to Dixie Drive, heading to Dixie Downs, you cross the Mathis Bridge. The first subdivision on the right borders the Santa Clara Creek River, depending on which time of year. And these properties were in a subdivision that bordered city-owned property that we acquired from the Mathis family. We got some donated and some we paid for. That goes between there and the Santa Clara. We had originally, when we got the property, we're going to use this for a park, kind of an extension of the Mathis Park. Going to build. We actually had a bridge across it, and it got washed away in I think 2005 flood. But the property owners have actually encroached on city property pretty significantly and put a bunch of improvements in.
Swimming pool.
And there's a portion of it, right? You should see in your packet. I think there's 4 property owners there. Matt Lou's been working with him. We haven't been very successful. We've been working on this for quite a while, but we've told them that we wanted a final resolution now. If we didn't get it, we would have to go to the legal realm to get this. We've offered it to sell it to them for $1.50 a square foot, like we have throughout the rest of the city, which I think is a pretty good price for that property. Nobody else can really use it, but it's similar to what we've done throughout. One applicant, the Bank of America, has come back and agreed to do their building. We've had discussions with the other 3. We're working through those. Hopefully we'll have them back to you in the next meeting, but we would like to go forward with the Bank of America and declare this property surplus and author it for sale to them.
Sean?
And what we've been doing now to make sure that there's not any issues later on is to require them to combine it with their existing lot and to pay for any cost that they would incur on combining that. That way, should the property, the house, or the lot in the subdivision change hands, you don't have a no man's land and back there that's owned by a third party. So that would be part of the stipulation of the agreement, that they pay those costs for combining the lots and any closing costs that we'd incur.
Okay. Any questions? Ready for a motion then.
I'll make a motion to approve all of the items as articulated by the city attorney.
Second.
Motion by Ed, second by Jimmy. Discussion on the motion. All in favor, starting, well, doesn't need to be resolution. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. No, you can't abstain, actually. What's your question?
That's a wonderful idea.
Okay. All voted in favor. Motion passes.
Last item is a transit bus stop agreement with Walmart in Bloomington.
This is just to be able to put a little shelter down there in the utility easement. So this provides us the opportunity to be able to do that. Since the utility easement doesn't allow us to put bus stops in there, Walmart went through their corporation and they're good with it.
Awesome.
Well,
We need a motion to approve the agreement.
Yeah.
Motion to approve the agreement with Walmart for the bus stop.
second.
Have a motion by Jimmy with second by Ed. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Have a little power outage going on right now, if you're not aware.
Just a little one at the ledges.
Both substations are off up there, so.
You handled the little brownout last night really well, though. I was impressed.
Okay, our utility group is really doing a great job. I mean, it's heat, and we've had a lot of them. You should be getting a little reminder on that on your cell phones, and they're doing a good job.
Yeah.
The other item is, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, between the, I don't know, I guess it's everybody, but between the police and the fire department and the power department, they're just all, they're working like banshees, and it's hot, and it's, so what's wrong with that?
I look at those two reports on the fires, and those guys, the exhaustion and everything that they're getting and all that.
Yeah.
At least the firemen have at least a mask on when they go there. The police didn't don't have masks, I guess. So
anyway, I don't know. I wish we could do something for them, but
Yeah,
I'm not
they're-
sure what it would be. So we'll thank them.
You said that Ledges is still in the city of St. George, right up to the border.
Yeah, it is. The Ledges is still in the city of St. George.
you might have a copy of this just for your information. That's going to be discussed at the next work meeting. Our cemetery people have come together, so we gave it to you a week early so you could look at any comments you might have on that discussion. It'll be next work meeting. I do have a need, Mayor, for a very short, I think, closed session
would
item
think
on
so.
a property purchase issue.
Could I say one thing about the fireworks? Just really want to compliment the city. That was huge. I mean, it's 16 to 70,000 people in there, and it was a great event. But there are just a couple of things. I have pictures if anybody wants to see of the stadium. It was amazing. But we need a lot more porta potties. I thought, well, I'll just wait until Sawyer Brown starts, and then I'll run down there for a minute. Well, I got down there, and the line just kept going, wound around forever. And it really was an hour and 45 minutes that I personally waited, but there were people that had been there for that long before me. There was a little girl behind me, little 3-year-old, that could not hold it. This wasn't, I'm not trying to make a complaint. It just wasn't appropriate. There were not enough female restrooms. And when we got up there were 5 stalls in there. And of course, some people went over to the porta potties on the other side. At times, they had really long lines, and sometimes they didn't. But it's probably the university's it's their issue. But we know how to do marathon porta potties, and there could have been porta potties around that whole thing, and it would have really made a difference. Because
My guess is next year they'll have some more permanent restrooms under the new bleachers on the east, but
But nobody was on the east side when you really get down to it. That's where the stage was.
yeah, but next year it'll be different. The stage will be on the north or the south.
Okay.
And so, but still, my wife made the same comment, and my daughter and her friend went down a couple times. It took them a couple attempts to be able to get in. So we can
everybody
give
was
that-
talking about it,
Yeah.
and there were just lots of women, and it's not necessary. I mean, I told people, we'll get this fixed.
Well,
because
every year, like this year, I think they really improved on the food options because they had that whole, food truck, whatever.
everybody
heaven.
was having a wonderful
Yeah,
time.
so it was good, but you're right.
And
so
there
we
was
can
no,
give that feedback.
even they were not complaining, but it was just not we don't have to do that. We can.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of
There's
people.
a lot of people. You're right. I mean,
And one other suggestion. As we were leaving, everybody had to go out those front gates. I don't know what the situation is on that track now and the field, but it seems like there could be more exits. There were a lot of people like we were that walked clear around the entire football field and parked way over there and the apartments over there. And somehow, if we could have gone through and gone out,
Yeah.
it would. So that's.
I know that they have that fence there to keep people out, but maybe they could have gates that were
That's exactly what I was thinking. 4 or 5 different ways to get out. Then you could have emptied that place so much quicker than.
I went out quickly for that reason, but yeah, it's, they'll learn.
Well,
And again,
just some thoughts, you know.
Yeah, and next year it'll be interesting because it'll be.
They were
awesome.
they were
and Murray Gubler did a great job.
beyond awesome.
Yeah. Okay, I need a motion to go into closed session for potential land purchase.
So moved for
Second.
land purchase.
Okay, a motion by Betty, second by Jimmy. Any discussion? All in favor, starting with Ed, say aye.
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 Motion carries. We'll go into closed session in the other room.